ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, a Friday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Jack Johnson hanging out here. Heading up until 2 o'clock, the next 4 hours we've got you. Boy, a lot of stuff to get into and talk about today as last night, first round complete in the books. We know what the Kansas City Chiefs have done. We know what the first round looks like. Everybody's got their best available boards and mock drafts for the second round, et cetera, coming up tonight. And certainly we will talk about all of that, discuss it over the next 4 hours. We'll mix in a little bit of Royals as they win yesterday. Cole Reagans with the complete game, gave up only one run in a complete game. What a great outing for Cole Reagans. I told everybody he was about to turn it around. Complete game, one run. So we'll talk about John Schneider and wanting to delay 3.5 hours, the inevitable that his team was going to lose 3 or 4 to the Royals in this series. But the big news being the Kansas City Chiefs last night moving from 32 up to 28 to take their guy, Xavier Worthy, out of Texas. And a lot of reaction from that. Seemed to be a lot more positive than negative that was out there. And a lot of national analysts talking about how the Chiefs were able to pull this off, how the league let the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy. What were they thinking? Those damned Buffalo Bills continue to help the Chiefs make it. First, it started with giving them the ball at the 25-yard line with 13 seconds in the divisional round. Why didn't you squib it? Why didn't you kick it high? How did you possibly kick it to the 25 and allow them to have the 2 timeouts at the 25-yard line? This is so dumb. It started there. Really, it started in 17 when they traded out of number 10 for Patrick Mahomes to move up. It has been their bugaboo, have been the Chiefs to the Bills. And the Bills do trade with the Chiefs, which I've got a little bit of a different opinion than some people do as the Bills move out of that number 28 spot. So we'll talk about that. And we'll go around the room and discuss what we think of the trade and the selection. Sterling, you and I talked a few weeks ago when we were talking about the NFL draft and we were discussing Xavier Worthy and a 4-2-1. The conversation we had then was, oddly enough, I feel like he is almost viewed as a detriment that he ran a 4-2-1 because people are just looking at the 4-2-1 going, well, he's a burner. He's a speed guy, Let's look at all of these other guys that broke the combine record and look how good and how great any of them were. Chris Johnson, CJ2K. And that's it. Oh, my goodness. Look at everybody else. Flame out in the NFL. Not good enough. John Ross. I mean, that's who this Xavier Worthy guy is. If he would have ran like a 4.29 or a 4.30 or something like that, I wonder what the conversation around Xavier Worthy would be. We had that conversation like 3 weeks ago saying people aren't giving nearly enough credit to his route running. People aren't giving nearly enough credit to his ball tracking ability. People aren't giving nearly enough credit to his ability to run a route with pace. Not necessarily, I'm just going to run by you. Like one of the negatives on him was, well, he's fast. He knows he's fast. Everybody knows he's fast, and he's just going to show you how fast he is by run. No, there's tempo to his routes. There's the pitter-patter of the feet in breaking in and out of cuts. They're setting up other routes. And I'm glad we had that conversation before because it doesn't feel like then the next day going, oh, they took Xavier Worthy. Oh, no, there's some other good things about him. Let's talk about how great Xavier Worthy is. So I'm glad we had that conversation because you and I talked about it, and I liked Xavier Worthy. The more I looked at him, the more I watched him, the more I realized myself it wasn't just he's really fast. Some of these highlights are deep throws there at Texas. And he's going and grabbing, though he's wide open, of course, he's going to catch the ball. One of the highlights that they show all the time was against Alabama. running past Alabama. He's running a post, and then he has to curl up the field and almost catch it like it's Willie Mays over the shoulder, right? That's one of the main highlights you need to watch. That isn't just speed. That's him running as fast as he can, and then looking over his shoulder. He's 40 yards down the field, curling it up, tracking the football, catching it almost over his other shoulder in the end zone for a touchdown. Name a Chiefs player on this team right now that would track a football like that. Because I guarantee you McCole ain't doing that. Kadarius ain't catching it. MVS ain't catching it. And Rashee Rice isn't fast enough to get there. So who's doing that on this team? Maybe Hollywood.
Sure.
Who they brought in. But that's sort of the point, is he's not just a burner. He's a guy that does track the ball in the air. And it is such an underrated skill for a guy who has speed, is just your ability to track the ball. Who's the best tracker of the football I think we've seen in the NFL? It's Tyreek Hill, at least to me. Tyreek Hill is brilliant when the ball's in the air. All you got to do is go watch that
Ravens game to me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the exact one I was coming up with. The 4th down Ravens game when Mahomes throws the ball and Tyreek is like 25 yards to the left of that. And Mahomes sees he's heading that way, and yet he tracks it to where it hits him right between the 1 and the 0 and then continues to run. That is it's a skill that it's sort of like you have it or you don't. You can either, I think that's difficult to coach, because if it was easy to coach, McCole Hardman would have figured it out by year number 5 in the NFL. Okay, so MVS would have figured it out by now with however many. This is year 7 in the NFL. This was year 6, 4 with the Packers, 2 with the Chiefs. So this is going into year 7. By 6 years in the NFL, MVS would have figured that out by now if it was that easy. So I think he, oddly enough, gets downgraded in the minds of people that don't know much about the overall game of Xavier Worthy in saying he's fast. We've seen fast guys before, and they haven't turned out to be all that good.
I think, again, this is not the guy I would have drafted, but
Right.
no one cares about that, and let's be real now.
No, I do. I want to hear your opinion on who you wanted and whether or not this is a good selection in your mind. I mean, it matters.
But whether or not this is the guy that I wanted, I still think Xavier Worthy is going to be a great fit here in Kansas City. I think both aspects can be true. And you're right. The speed almost got as a negative against him, while at times Tyreek Hill had to eventually make that into a positive, because everyone kept saying, oh, he's just a fast guy. And you're like, have you not watched Tyreek Hill?
Tyreek Hill had to prove to everybody he wasn't just a returner.
Yeah.
Because it was Jalen Ramsey.
Specialist.
This guy was a Pro Bowl as a return specialist. Oh, okay. All right, so I'm just a return specialist. And I bet Xavier Worthy's going, okay, so I'm just fast. I can't run routes. I can't come in and out of breaks. I don't set up corners. I don't attack. I don't eat up space and then cut off that when I see the cornerback or the safety turn his hips. Oh, okay.
Well, here we go. 62 receptions his freshman year. 60 his sophomore year. 75 last year. Yards. Averaged over 900 yards a season at Texas. Right? His relative age breakout season, which is a very important statistic apparently for success in the NFL, is in the 97th percentile. He broke out and was the guy very young at Texas. We're not talking about a small school. We're talking about the Big 12 here, right? 981 yards, 760, then over 1,000 last year. 26 touchdowns in 3 years. Oh, yeah, and by the way, he played in 12 games, 13 games, and 14 games. So while the size is a concern, while the size should make you at least a little bit nervous, he's been healthy.
Yeah.
Like, I get people wanting to use it as a negative and all that stuff, and I get it. It does make me nervous. But he's not shown any ability to miss games in college. So maybe he's a small dude who stays healthy. Tank Dell stayed healthy besides the unfortunate situation last year. Deshaun Jackson, for the most part in his career, stayed relatively healthy. I mean, you're going to have injuries when you play that long in the NFL. Devontae Smith, like, yes, he's going to be an outlier based on his size, but there's a lot of reasons to indicate that he is that outlier.
Well, then you and I talked about that at the time, that, hey, it's not a perfect prospect. If it was a perfect prospect, he'd be going in the top 5 with that speed and everything. So he is skinny. And so that is a concern. You're playing in the NFL. So this is that is an absolute worry and a concern of mine, is that he is wiry and he's a thinner player, and he's going to have to hold up for hopefully 20 games a year, in which he'll be playing for the Chiefs. Jack?
I really thought at the time when they were trading up that, it was going to be A.D. Mitchell, it was going to be Ladd McConkey. But you look at somebody like Xavier Worthy, I'm actually not that discouraged about the size. I don't think that it is something that is going to hinder him at this level. And let's all be honest, last year, the Chiefs were a team that I feel like not only did they lack guys that couldn't catch the football from time to time, they lacked a lot of speed. They lacked a lot of game-changing speed. You bring in Hollywood Brown. He's one of the faster guys in the league. Xavier Worthy, I think when he first ran that 4.2, everybody was freaking out about he's going to be a Chief. And I thought it was almost too obvious. I'm like, the fastest guy would go to Kansas City. So we were all turning our attention elsewhere. It was like, oh, no, if they get a wide receiver, it's probably Xavier Legette, or it's McConkey, or it's A.D. Mitchell. And in the end, it appeared that Brett Veach always wanted speed back and kind of, Legion of Zoom 2.0. He wants to be able to have guys that are not just wide receivers. And maybe that can be seen as a negative, but to me, I think the Chiefs' offense is at its best when you can have guys that can contribute in multiple ways. It's not just the one-on-one guy. It's a guy that can run the screenplay. It's a guy that can run the toss, the jet sweep, stuff like that. And Hollywood, I think, is much more of the wide receiver than Worthy is, but Worthy is kind of a gadget plus guy. Like, I think a gadget player is used as like almost derogative now. We use that for McCole Hardman, Kadarius Toney. It's like the guy that can't really run routes. You can toss him the ball and he's going to run 40 yards. But I do think Xavier Worthy is a good route runner. He can catch the ball. We saw that at Texas, and that's what I think they were more excited about too, along with the speed, rather than just he ran a 4.2. He's going to be fast. He's a great punt returner. There are elements to his game that make him an intriguing prospect, and you're exactly right. If he was the perfect prospect, he wouldn't have been there. Yeah. And they felt like probably the Niners were going to take him because they went with, who was it, Pascal?
Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall from Florida.
The Florida kid. That, to me, felt like option 2. That felt to me like the Niners were going to go Worthy if he was there. That's why the Chiefs needed to trade up.
And we'll play some clips from Brett Veach, and he talked about that. I do wonder, and we'll get into the trade value and everything, because there's so much to talk about, so much takeaway from this, and also where the Chiefs need to go next. What do they address? What other picks and everything like that? I don't prefer them trading up. I mean, we talked. That's why we did the exercise on Wednesday. Was, okay, what's the draft board looking like, and what are the spots in which they could trade up?
Shockingly, we never landed on the Bills. Surprisingly.
Yeah, we did not land on the Bills because we joked about, the Bills aren't even going to answer the phone, and we'll hear Brett Veach weigh in and talk about that. But at the time, like, the perfect scenario for me was that Olu Fashanu was there at number 16. Well, he wasn't there. He went in, number 11. And so he wasn't available for you to go and select. Fashanu went, he went 11 to the Jets because they are really good at picking offensive linemen.
Well, I did say the Jets finally didn't mess up a pick, which I have to give them credit for. But who knows? They might be able to even mess up Fashanu.
Yeah, we'll see if they did or did not actually mess up a pick. But in our exercise, when we did that on Wednesday, 16th pick, Fashanu was there. Some of us decided to make the trade. You did not, which is perfectly fine. At number 22, Brian Thomas was still there, which I do think is a bit different than Xavier Worthy. If Brian Thomas is there, then I'm going to want to trade up and get Brian Thomas at pick number 22. We decided not to do that because of what it took to get up there and the other players that were still available. But what we didn't mention at that time was Xavier Worthy was gone right after Brian Thomas. So he was gone at like 23 or 24. So we didn't even discuss, hold on, do you trade up to 25 or a 23 to get Xavier Worthy? Well, we just said no at 22 for Brian Thomas. So I think I'm going to say no to 23 to Xavier Worthy. So when we sat back and then it was, okay, A.D. Mitchell's available at 27. You got to trade above the Bills. Do we do that? Probably not. We're going to stand there at number 32 and see who's available. Ladd McConkey was available. Xavier Legette was available. Kingsley Suamataia, Tyler Guyton, the different choices that we had sitting there at 32. But again, we didn't discuss Xavier Worthy because he was gone in this particular exercise at pick 23, right after Brian Thomas. And it was like, okay, maybe here comes the run on wide receivers. The trade up to 28 is one of the things that I think people are having trouble getting fully around the Xavier Worthy pick.
Sure.
Is if he's there at 32. And I think that's a little bit of your trepidation, too.
That was my initial until
the size and the trade up.
Correct.
So Brett Veach had mentioned it a number of times, and again, we'll play some Brett Veach clips, that they moved back 38 spots. So what we did was move back 38 spots. Well, they moved up 4 to move back 38. It is the equivalent when you use the draft value chart of the Chiefs moving up 4 spots in the first round and moving back 38 spots from the 3rd to the 4th, it's the equivalent of a early to mid 6th round draft pick.
Sure.
Is what they would have given up. If we go by that.
Correct.
You can look at it different ways. Wow, the Chiefs only have one more pick in the top 100. That's certainly one way of viewing it. Chiefs only have one more pick tonight. Definitely a way of viewing it. They now have 2 4th rounders. Okay, so starting on Saturday morning, there'll be some players early on. And if they want a cornerback, well, hell, take one in the 4th round. They're good at finding cornerbacks in the 4th. Yeah. That's what Brett Veach is doing. We need a cornerback. Let's get 4th rounders.
We don't want 3rd. We don't want 3rd. We want 4th.
What are you dumb? You don't take cornerbacks in the 3rd round, you jackass. You take them in the 4th round. Everybody knows cornerbacks go in the 4th round. But you move up to take him at number 28. And if this was the guy that the Chiefs looked at and said, he's the difference maker, this is the 5th best receiver in this draft, clearly that's how they felt.
Sure.
Because the 3 went early, then Brian Thomas, and the Bills had their pick of the 5th best receiver when we thought 7, maybe 8 receivers will go in the first round. And 7 receivers did end up going in the first round. But we thought, 7, 8 receivers may go in the first round, and the Bills absolutely want a receiver. If you want one, there's somebody there, you got to trade above the Bills. Got to trade ahead of the Bills to get that guy. And the Chiefs clearly felt like this was the difference maker. He was the 5th best receiver on the board. My view last night was sort of, and I know that it's not as simple as this trade-off, but there is perspective to the whole thing. It does suck that the Chiefs had to give up the equivalent of the 6th round value to move up and get him, but it also wouldn't have been better for them to lose in the divisional round and be sitting at 28 and take him without having to trade up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the success tax that you're sitting there at 32. The board falls the way that it does. We'll hear Brett Veach talk about tackles that they thought may have fallen, and him saying, the board the way that we had a number of guys and they weren't there.
Sure.
And I'm thinking that when the Bengals took Amarius Mims, their tackle proposition and trading was off the board. Now, what's the next route? Let's see wide receivers. Okay, Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy. Let's see. It's getting closer. Do we move up here for Xavier Worthy? Okay, no. Do we move up here for Xavier Worthy? Okay, no. Do we move up here for... All right, let's do it. It's close enough. Yeah. The value's there. Let's go get them because we're picking 32. You could have picked 28. I would just rather them give up the equivalent value of a 6th rounder while putting on a ring in a month at the ring ceremony.
I think my trepidation at first was the trade before I knew what was actually given up.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
When you see trade with the Bills, my thought is, oh my gosh, they had to have paid out the nose for this. And then you realize the Bills apparently thought they only had 13 seconds to make a decision. And they go, shoot, well, it's the Chiefs. Maybe they're being nice to us for once. It's like when you get picked on and the bully's finally nice for you one time. It's like, oh, yeah, I'll help you out, guy. I'll do your homework for you. I'm sure this will never backfire. And so the Bills did the Chiefs' homework, and the Chiefs trade up. They get their guy. I think the process is good here. Again, if it's not even my pick, I can still have no fault with the process based on what was given up. The Bills wanted the ability to draft at 32 for the first time ever, and they still said, you know what? No, too much pressure. We can't do this. This does not feel right. So they trade back again because it was too much pressure for them.
No,
the Bills couldn't draft at 32.
It's like when I used to always say, I'm not going to go to a Super Bowl and watch the game until the Chiefs play there. We're not going to pick 32 until we've earned it. Okay, we traded back to 32, but damn it, we will not take this pick. Anybody want to trade up with us? Anybody want to get up? Okay, great. Thank you, Panthers. We're not picking at 32 unless we earn it. But for a second, they were about to realize and have an experience of picking 32nd, which is a really cool deal.
I almost think at this point, if you're Buffalo, they're going to take a wide receiver today. I mean, they felt like when they were trading back, probably when they got to Carolina, Carolina's going up and they're still going to take a guy, probably a wide receiver, and they took Leggett. But maybe that wasn't who Buffalo wanted.
You're all choked up about this.
Allergies are bad for me, man. I don't know. It comes out of nowhere. But anyways, what I was going to say is the bad thing for Buffalo, as good as the process is, as Sterling brought up, I mean, you're getting extra picks here. You traded out twice. So you got Carolina to move up. You got Kansas City to move up. Here's the thing, though. If Xavier Worthy is good, you contributed to that. Right? That, to me, I think is the problem for Buffalo.
McDuffie 2.0.
Yeah, and whoever you take here today has to work out. The pressure then goes on Buffalo if they take McConkey, if they take A.D. Mitchell. Well, if A.D. Mitchell or McConkey doesn't work out, we're just playing hypotheticals here, and Xavier Worthy does. You directly contributed to getting your biggest rival, the team you can't beat, the mountain to climb, another weapon in that offense. Whereas maybe if they didn't trade up, they said, we're not trading with you, and they took who they wanted to. Or maybe they traded with somebody else. Maybe San Francisco takes Xavier Worthy, and the Chiefs rightfully pissed and go, that was the guy we wanted to take, and now we have to trade. I'm sure if Xavier Worthy was taken or 28 or 31, they're trading out. Yeah, I don't think they stay at 32 and take just whoever option B or option C was. That's why I think this trade for Buffalo is going to be seen in the negative light, because it kind of feels like, just by the nature of it, Xavier Worthy is going to work out, at least to an extent. You feel like he is going to have some sort of role in this offense, and if he does, Buffalo once again has contributed to Kansas City's success.
Right, and how big of a gap was it from receiver 5 to 6 for the Chiefs? It was big enough to where they didn't want to be sitting there and say, we get our choice of pick 6 if Xavier Worthy is gone. You know, Xavier Worthy's gone. Those are the top 5. Well, we'll be here at 32, and we'll take whoever's there. We got all these other receivers. I think in their mind there was a difference between the top 4, maybe 5, and then after that, whether it be 80, or at least for them,
yes,
and what he does for them. There was a difference between 5 and 6, to where Pearsall or Leggett or A.D. Mitchell or Ladd McConkey, that Xavier Worthy was there. There was a gap, and then others, because you don't trade up from 32 to 28 if you feel like, well, Worthy and McConkey and Pearsall and Leggett, they're all sort of, and A.D. Mitchell, they're all sort of the same thing, and we're 4 picks away. We'll get one of these guys. Hell yeah, we're good. And even if there's like a couple of them left and Carolina wants to trade up, boom, we can trade back. This is awesome. It's clearly a difference in their mind from the wide receiver 5 to wide receiver 6.
There was a difference for the Chiefs, but not for the Bills.
Agreed.
And I think if you are a Bills fan, you can talk yourself into this making sense. Because we, as Chiefs fans, we said if they trade back, would you be mad, and gathered some more draft capital? The issue was what they gathered, what they acquired. It was not enough to make it seem like they had to pay the AFC rival tax. If you're the Buffalo Bills, by the way, this is also a step of, we understand we need more than just one guy.
Yeah.
We need more draft picks. We need top 100 draft picks. We have more than just one guy we need to make this team into a contender. Josh Allen's great, but you look at the rest of that roster, and it is not good. They are devoid of talent. So for them, they traded back. They traded back again. Mm-hmm. They're acquiring more talent. They're probably going to get at least a wide receiver that they like. So if you are a Bills fan, you can like their process. Again, we won't know how the results play out, but right. I think the Bills process is fine in its own right.
Yeah, and they looked at it and said it's okay to move back 4 spots if it means that they were going to be able to move up, 38 spots or whatever it was, from the 4th round to the 3rd round, and be able to draft on a Friday night. Can we play the clip real quick? This is what happened with. So after the draft or the trade went through and it was made official, this was the phone call. The end of the phone call from Brett Veach and the Bills. The Chiefs released it because it's good for the Chiefs. But the end of the phone call with Brett Veach and the Bills after they agreed to the trade. It's odd that they would release that audio, but, I mean, it totally makes sense that they would release that audio. The trade had already gone through, and then that's when Brett Veach turned heel.
You had me there. I actually thought there was real audio.
You think Brett Veach?
What do you mean? You thought that was the audio? What are you talking about, Jack? That was real. You don't think that was real audio? It sounded like audio to me.
It was.
I've got ears. That sounded like it came through the radio just fine. I don't know.
Brett Veach sounds a little different.
Well, that was heel Brett Veach. That was villain Brett Veach. Brett Veach
changed his voice on phone
Brett
calls.
Veach was like, hey, what do you think about 32, 28? This is what we can give up to move up to 20. Okay, great. Yeah, it's great doing. You know you messed up, right? You know you done messed up, right?
Bows and toes, Pledge Bean. Come on, bows and toes.
What I'm saying is that the Chiefs to the rest of the league have been a menace to society. Go to break. Right after this one, yeah. It's from the movie Menace to Society.
No, I actually I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I was like,
Visit us at Hollywood Casino,
Not
Kansas
Jackson,
Speedway.
not Jackson.
This brings
Common mistake.
of hoops and hockey action, baseball and the draft right there at Hollywood Casino, Kansas Speedway. We've got the biggest screens, the best food and drink, plus we're giving away pin cash bonuses and prizes to Pin Play Rewards members. Not a member? Join today by downloading and registering for the Pin Play app from the App Store. Unlock all the fun, including a chance to win up to $2,000 in
I'm a big fan of Nate Tice and the Beast at The Athletic.
He's great.
And Nate Tice, not necessarily a fan of the selection of Xavier Worthy that high and giving up that draft pick. He said, overall, Worthy doesn't have ideal size, toughness, or play strength, but his dynamic speed and playmaking instincts make him a threat as both a wide receiver and return man. He doesn't have the body of work of Deshaun Jackson, but he teases similar flashes. He had him as a second-round grade for Xavier Worthy. Receivers he had above him were Ricky Pearsall. He had Roman Wilson ahead of Xavier Worthy. He had Keon Coleman ahead of Xavier Worthy. He had A.D. Mitchell. He had Ladd McConkey. Wow. Those are all receivers that are still there. And I totally respect Nate Tice in his opinion. KCSN, their draft guide, talking about, the things that he does well and how much of a fit he is, the comparison to Deshaun Jackson. Seth Kaiser loves the pick, going through all the breakdown of Xavier Worthy, of what he can do. And it's one of the things that we talked about to start the show is, to me, he's not just a speed guy. He's a guy that has really good route running. He's a guy that can make some plays, can separate and do some things like that. I'm going to play one more breakdown, and then we'll get into some other conversations, too, about Xavier Worthy. But we have Sam Monson on the show quite frequently from Pro Football Focus, one of our favorites that we talk to. And we're not playing this just because he's overly positive about Xavier Worthy. It's also because I respect Sam Monson's opinion as well. That's why we have him on. But this is a live reaction as soon as they found out Xavier Worthy was the pick. Here's Pro Football Focus's show last night, and the voice you'll hear mainly is Sam Monson.
I would now be absolutely petrified if I was Buffalo.
I cannot believe they just did this.
Xavier Worthy is more than just 4.21, right? That's what he's being known as right now. The fastest guy ever to run at the combine. The new
Buffalo
record holder.
this.
He is so much more than that when you watch his tape. He's actually got route running chops and the ability to separate beyond just running past people. He's stronger than he looks. Like, he weighed, one of the biggest concerning things, he weighed like 165 pounds at the combine to run the 4.21. But he'll attack weak shoulders and try and run his way through defenders and get a couple of yards at the end of it as well. He is really good. I felt a little bit like there was some Jordan Addison to his tape as well, except 0.4 of a second faster in the 40. I would be terrified of what the Buffalo Bills just allowed Kansas City to do.
You know who ranked last year 20-plus yard throws? Do you know who ranks 38th in the NFL among quarterbacks in passer rating?
Is it Patrick Mahomes?
It was Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes was 38th on 20-plus yard throws.
Passer rating doesn't take into effect drop balls.
Yes.
Doesn't take into effect the inability to track the ball in the air like we saw McCole Hardman do a couple of times in the playoffs. It doesn't take that into account and go, well, we're actually going to give him that reception there. We're going to give him that completion because that should have been a complete. That was a catchable pass. It doesn't take that into account if you're just looking at raw passer rating. Some other grades do. PFF and their grading system, individual plays may do that, but just strictly old school passer rating does not do that. 20-plus yard throws, 38th in the NFL last year was Patrick Mahomes. And it makes sense because you were throwing to MVS down the field, and that was really it. Like, you didn't have another Justin Watson, somebody that really could be game-breaking speed. And now you've got guys that, have amazing speed. Hollywood Brown ran a 4.27 at the draft. Xavier Worthy ran a 4.21. And Rashee Rice goes as fast as 119 miles an hour. You've got speed to burn with the Chiefs. Go ahead, Sterling. You were going to say something earlier?
I apologize for that joke. No, I'm kidding.
His eyes were closing.
They were already closed
That
before
was
I got there.
I knew where you were going with
So,
that, and the second I
not
heard
sure what you're
Rashee,
talking
I go, oh no, I know where this is heading. It is not good. It's not good.
It wasn't good,
Yeah,
no.
He's probably running away from
No.
that joke.
Yeah.
I think
He did.
a lot of the concern from fans, and I was there originally, because this does feel very Chief. Get a guy who runs very fast, does have a little bit of that gadget style in him. You reminisce about McCole Hardman instead of DK Metcalf. You reminisce about Kadarius Toney, but what has he actually been? You go back to guys like DeAnthony Thomas, and you're sitting here going, like, how many of these do you have to go through? But what I will say is, this guy has way more production in college than
Right.
any of those guys. He's been healthier than any of those guys. Like McCole Hardman averaged, I think, under 500 yards a season as a receiver at Georgia.
And he was so raw coming out, too. McCole Hardman, one of the issues was raw, hasn't played wide receiver much because he was a defensive back in high school, was scouted as a defensive back, was recruited as a defensive back, turned to wide receiver, has a large learning curve of route running and playing the receiver position. That's not Xavier Worthy. I mean, he stepped onto the field as a freshman at 18 years old at Texas and had almost 1,000 yards receiving at Texas.
And that's kind of my point is while I think a lot of folks, and again, myself included, when it originally was announced, I thought, oh my gosh, they're just going after this exact same archetype of just a fast burner. And then you dive deeper and you go, this is a completely different player. It's the same thing where if you go, I'm never drafting an Ohio State quarterback, right? That was the knock. Then you don't get C.J. Stroud. If you tell the Chiefs you're never going to draft another guy who's undersized, who's small, but who's very fast ever again because of the previous dudes they've drafted, well, then you're going to miss out on the Tank Dells, the Deshaun Jacksons, and hopefully Xavier Worthy.
So what do we think about the Bills? So I've got a little bit of a different opinion on the Bills than the jokes are fun, you know, because I was with everybody, and we joked yesterday that the Bills won't even answer the phone. Like, you call the Bills, and they'll just immediately hang up. Bill Belichick told the story last night on the Pat McAfee show that we may play today, if we have time, of him calling Randy Moss to tell him that they just traded for him. And he was like, Randy, Coach Belichick. Click. The hell? Hey, Randy, Coach Belichick, stop pranking me. Click. Randy, this is Coach Belichick. Who is this? Who is calling me? This is Bill Belichick. We just traded for you. Oh, really? Oh, my bad, Coach. He hung up on him twice because he thought he was being pranked, right? The Bills, you know, hey, it's Brett Veach. Click. Hey, Brandon, it's Veach. Click. I'm not answering the 913-816, wherever the draft war room is. Not answering it, man. Not happening. But while the jokes are there and why would the Buffalo Bills help out the Chiefs, I give the Bills credit because I have said for a long time, I think it is dumb for a team to go, well, we're not going to help that team even though it would help us. You got to focus on yourself first. And I will give the credit to the Bills that they said, I don't give a bleep if it helps the Chiefs. It helps us. And we have to build our team before we even get a chance to face off against the Chiefs. And we've got needs in many different spots, and it is better for us to now move back into the third round. Now we have 2 third-rounders. We can maneuver the draft board. They have 2 second-rounders, and they got 4 picks tonight. The Bills do. 2 second-rounders. Now, they didn't have one last night, but they've got 2 second-rounders, 2 third-rounders coming up tonight. And they've got 2 fifths and a couple of 6. Like, they are collecting a lot of draft picks because they are trying to do what the Chiefs did 2 years ago. They are trying to say, we're going to have a draft class that we're going to have volume of players, and we're going to get a number of them right. We're going to miss, but we're going to get a number of them right. And to have the stones to trade again with the Chiefs and go, oh, the league's going to be pissed at us, but we don't care. Oh, you just helped the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy. Yeah, and they helped us get better. Yeah. So I don't care about that. So I do give the Bills credit for that because it would have been so easy to go, yeah, sorry, Brett, we're not trading with you. We'll trade with somebody else. We're not trading with you, and then just stay put and take a receiver. When if they didn't view Xavier Worthy. Also, I do wonder this. Were the Bills convinced the Chiefs were trading up to take a receiver, or did they think they were trading up to get a tackle? Like, was there a part? Was there a part of the Bills that thought, well, they want a tackle, they just got Hollywood Brown, they're not going to trade up to get a wide receiver when there's 6 guys available right now? Yeah. We're good. Xavier Worthy, mother bleeper. What in the hell? I thought you were going tackle.
It's an illusion, Jason.
That's right.
It's an illusion.
Everything's over there.
I almost think that it's always going to be mocked because Patrick Mahomes was involved in one of the most famous trades in NFL history. And honestly, we talked about this on the break. The Bills did get talent in that trade, but it wasn't Patrick Mahomes' talent, right? And maybe if we go back in time and Kansas City loses this in the last playoff game against Buffalo, we don't make too much fun of this because Buffalo had at least conquered their demon once. But it kind of feels like, you know, when you go into the mall and there's kind of the salespeople that sit in the middle and they'll come up to you when you're not expecting it. And, they'll keep you like sidetracked for like 10 minutes, and eventually you're like, okay, fine, I'll take the pamphlet, I'll sign up for whatever, I'll sign up for a gym membership. Well, that's kind of what this felt like. Like, I know I've been wronged by you before. This never works out well for me. but maybe I'll just do this anyway, right? It's like I think they got better. Yeah, it's something like that where they
You
could
just sold
get
him a new phone case.
yes, it just kind of feels like this is the team that in the back of your mind you got to be going, we did get better, we got more picks, but even if this guy works out, let's say they take A.D. Mitchell with their first pick today, and A.D. Mitchell's fine. What if Xavier Worthy's really good?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, we feel good about A.D. Mitchell, but we gave our biggest competitor another weapon. That's what I was trying to get at in the first segment today.
And it could be something to where you go into the AFC Championship game and Xavier Worthy has a big game, and it's like, see, the Bills, look what you did. The Bills might look at it and go, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have the collection of draft picks that we got by trading back. Yes, Xavier Worthy was a great player in this game. Look what, throwing out look what A.D. Mitchell did. Look what Jalen Polk did for us in this game. Yeah, we ended up losing, but all these different players that we have based on that offseason is why we were here to begin with. I think the simplistic way might be Xavier Worthy, you guys lost that one, right? And their view is we got to get better ourselves before we even worry about trying to catch the Chiefs. Because, we lost to them in the divisional round, and we lost to them last year in the divisional round. Clearly, we're not there. Okay, so if we don't get better, they got better this offseason. They got Hollywood Brown. We lost Stephon Diggs. We're losing players. We're going backwards. They're going forward. Do we really care how much forward they go already? They're already a step or two ahead of us right now.
Well, if
I'm the Bengals or the AFC West, I'm pissed at the Bills. If I'm the Bills, I'm worried about myself.
Little different because the Steelers weren't necessarily in, I don't think, direct competition with the Chiefs. I mean, I'm still AFC, obviously. The Steelers always like to pretend they're still in competition with the Chiefs. But it feels a little Sky Moore, George Pickens, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
Where okay, in that situation, though, the Bills were the right? Well, let's just say Xavier Worthy turns into the stud, and then all of a sudden, whoever the Bills draft, you're going, well, you could have had Xavier Worthy, but you didn't.
Yeah.
It feels almost like the Chiefs said, we're not doing this again. This time, we're the team trading up for our guy. We're getting our wide receiver, even if there were 3 or 4 guys still on the board that the Chiefs could have gone with at wide receiver. Maybe this is Brett Veach learning a lesson here.
Well, this is also, I like what you said, it was either earlier this segment or the one before that, this was kind of the admittance, if you will, of we're not one player away, we're multiple players away. And that is, I think, what this third loss to Kansas City did, because that was, I wouldn't say the team of destiny for Buffalo, but they had finally gotten the Chiefs to Orchard Park. They had brought them to Buffalo. Conditions were on their side. You had a weaker offensive Kansas City Chiefs team, and this Buffalo team still blew it. So you lose Diggs, right? So now that wide receiver core, I think, has Shakir, and that's about it at this point. Gabe Davis no longer there.
Right.
Diggs is in Houston. So it's not we stay at 28, we take Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy doesn't fix Buffalo. The multiple picks after this does give them a better chance, but I think it's almost this message now of we're not going to be that top alpha team this year. Our hope is we still have a really good team, but it's not a do or die scenario. We hope that we can extend this window as long as possible to eventually win. Maybe we don't have to worry about playing Kansas City in the playoffs. They're bounced before we even get to them.
Well, with their 4 picks tonight, if they end up with 2 wide receivers, a defensive lineman, and a safety, maybe you're feeling different about Buffalo, going, okay, we got A.D. Mitchell, Jalen Polk, we got a defensive lineman and a safety in the 3rd round, and now we've replaced a couple of guys, and we got deeper at a defensive line position that was so ravaged by injury last year. We lost our bookend awesome, safety tandem that was one of the best in the league. Both those guys are gone. We got to replenish that, and obviously the wide receiver has to be rebuilt. Okay, we got 2 wide receivers now that we feel like can grow with Josh Allen, and we took our Dalton Kincaid last year as a tight end.
Yeah.
So now we've got 3 guys to go along with Josh Allen offensively. We've got our running back that we feel like had a breakout season last year.
Sure.
Now we got to worry about attacking the defense the rest of the draft and in the next year, the year after that. That would be the way that if I'm the Bills and certainly that they would be looking at it. Not, I hope the Chiefs. This is about helping us. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up this hour next. By now, you probably know how much my entire family loves working with Guaranteed Foods and the food that we get, how much it's changed our lives with the 180-day supply of food, an entire menu with over 600 restaurant-quality gourmet products, and nutritious food, including 100% all-natural meats, fruits, and vegetables, and us saving money as well with our monthly investment, because what we're getting with Guaranteed Foods, not going to restaurants or fast food anymore, the impulse buying that people may not realize goes on at grocery stores, saving the money, quality is the best, it's all guaranteed. And right now, if you want to find out for yourself, go to GuaranteedFoods.com, give them a call, 913-888-5000, set up the risk-free in-home trial. And right now is the perfect time to do it, because this month, the first 100 new customers get an extra 10% off their entire food supply. An extra 10% off their entire food supply. Delivery's free, always by appointment, and always hassle-free, guaranteed. It's GuaranteedFoods.com, 913-888-5000. Tell them you heard it right here on Sports Radio 810. Mention my name. You'll also get a free gourmet dessert with your first delivery, along with that 10% off the entire food supply. America's finest home food service, Guaranteed Foods, delivering all-natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. All right, wrapping up this hour, we'll talk with Matt Derrick coming up at 11 o'clock. Thank you, Jack. I know you got other work to do, some more hats to wear, things like that. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, always love coming on, and on Monday, these allergies are going to be fixed. No more phlegm in the throat.
That's good. That's good. Letter grade for Xavier Worthy, you give it, what, an X?
That's a good one. That was complete in elementary school, wasn't it? X on the thing. I'll go B+ for real, but X if I have to.
There you go. They finally found their X receiver, did the Chiefs, with Xavier Worthy. We'll talk some more about that. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mike podcast. We'll talk with him on the other side of the break in the 11 o'clock hour, get his thoughts on what he thinks of this pick, the trade, who's still on the board, positions that they can go and address and attack, etc. We'll do that with Matt Derrick coming up next right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Kyle Collier heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Matt Derrick coming up here in just a little bit. Chiefs get their guy, Xavier Worthy, pick number 28, moving up from 32 to 28 and giving up the equivalent on these different draft trade value charts, the equivalent of what would be a mid/early 6th round pick. Obviously, we know it's a little bit different when you trade out of tonight to move into tomorrow. It feels a lot more significant, but moving up the 4 spots in the draft in the first round, roughly the equivalent of giving up a 6th rounder to then slide back 38 spots from the 3rd to the 4th round. And I know it's like, well, you gave up a 3rd, you got a 4th. Well, if you gave up the last pick of the 3rd and got the first pick of the 4th,
Yeah.
it's like, well, I can't believe you gave up a 3rd and got a 4th back. Oh, you move back 1 spot. But this 38 spots is significant. It's not just they move back 3 or 8. 38 spots is significant for them to move back. And in their mind, clearly there was a difference between Xavier Worthy and the other receivers. So those 4 receivers, Brian Thomas being the 4th one, and there was a collection of thoughts of who the 5th best receiver was. And it's whatever your favorite flavor is. You know, some people are just vanilla or chocolate, butterscotch, right?
Butterscotch, yeah.
Pistachio. Who knows what your favorite ice cream flavor is? And the Chiefs' favorite was Xavier Worthy. Their favorite ice cream was the speed. And the different things that he brings to the table because, you know, we talked about, this is also an element of last night, what Brett Veach does typically in an offseason when there is a glaring need or a hole or something along those lines or a deficiency, he sort of goes overboard a little bit and ultra attacks it, right? Offensive line, like overboard, ultra attacking the offensive line when that happened. Defensively, you've got an area of need at defense. Boom, you're going to go and attack it and attack the defensive side. This offense needed speed that you could rely on, not just speed to stretch the defense that the defense then goes, okay, MVS is the guy that's supposed to scare us. Yeah, he's fast. We also know he's not reliable.
He scares you as much as he scares us.
He scares you more than he scares us. We're still going to play single high. We're not going to go and play the 2 high. We're not going to leave some of the openings for Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice underneath because we're not worried about this guy. And so clearly what Brett Veach did in the offseason. Now, it's not this was plan A because we'll hear from Brett Veach talk about there were tackles that they were thinking of moving up to get. That might have been plan A. If Amarius Mims was there at 23 or 24, are we talking about the Chiefs moving up in the draft and getting somebody they feel could be their left tackle of the future, and then now you address wide receiver in the 2nd round? What did they give up to go get Amarius Mims? But when he went to the Bengals, it certainly feels like at that point, plan A was gone. Plan B then becomes the wide receiver and addressing that element, that piece of your team to try to figure those things out.
Part of me thought when the trade was happening, I thought it was going to be a Cooper DeLevi, Cooper DeWrangler. I was really expecting a trade up for a la Trent McDuffie, a cornerback who was falling, which was going to be Cooper DeJean. That was my original thought process, but obviously he fell for a reason. We'll see why he fell, but I was really feeling that Trent McDuffie 2.0 happening.
Yeah. And you know, it's one of the reasons why we talk about, like locally, nationally, people talk about the Buffalo Bills and the Patrick Mahomes trade. Locally, we throw in the Trent McDuffie trade because we've paid a little bit more attention, you know, to that than maybe nationally people have, because we know that, you know, the Bills were looking for a cornerback and they ended up getting Kyer Elam and the Chiefs got Trent McDuffie. So it is that element of Chiefs trading ahead of the Bills, Chiefs trading with the Bills, and now the Chiefs trading with the Bills again. They have been intertwined and connected to some degree throughout the last 7 years, going back to 2017. Let's hear from Brett Veach. And the question was exactly this, about trading with the Bills. The question was essentially, this is clip number 6. Clip number 6. The question was, were you surprised that the Bills picked up the phone and were willing to work with you in a trade in the first round?
I think everyone goes into the process, with their own list of priorities of what they want to do and what they want to accomplish, and every team, constructs their team a little bit differently. And I think they had a mindset of what they wanted to do, and obviously they've done a great job over the years, and they're a really good organization. So I'm sure it made sense to them. I think they ended up making another move there too. So. We were on our own agenda, and we saw value there. And again, moving 38 spots for a guy that we think will be a great addition to our team, and especially with the special teams values that he adds, I think was something that we really factored in.
Obviously, you really liked him. You gave up your 3. What besides the 4.2 40 do you like about him?
Yeah, just our ability to play vertical and have speed on the field at all times, and having Xavier and Hollywood, I think will make life easier for Travis and Rasheed. And I think, as the season goes on here, I think we'll have an offense that can attack in multiple different ways and always keep defenses guessing.
So, you know what? Not surprised. And I think my initial reaction was, yes, I was surprised that the Chiefs and the Bills pulled off the trade. But as I said at the end of last hour, I give credit to the Bills, who were willing to say, this helps us, no matter who else it may help, it helps us first and foremost. Matt Derrick hanging out with us here on this Friday edition of the show, and Matt Derrick's presented by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending is the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time, gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to caponelending.com. Matt, what's up, brother? That's what's up?
That's not Matt Derrick. That's Johnny Cash.
That's how my morning's going.
Really?
Yes. Sterling's crazy, by the way.
That's Johnny
Why?
Cash. It's the man in black.
I'm in the man in black.
He's got
That's
the all
man
juice team.
He's rocking all black jeans,
He's an all juice man.
black shoes, no boot.
Is this
Proud of you.
Okay, so let's ask this. Are you in mourning that the Chiefs drafted Xavier Worthy? Are you wearing black because Joe Alt is staying in division? So is that what the all black was, or just happened to be the outfit you had picked out earlier in the week anyway?
Well, if you haven't had a chance to listen to the 41 is the Mic
haven't yet.
podcast.
I haven't yet. I apologize.
It did come out at like 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
so
I know.
That's okay.
why I figured you guys did one post-draft.
We
Post first round.
Nick and I are both in mourning, not just because Joe Alt is going to the Chargers, but because the Chargers are going to plug him at right tackle.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, for probably 3 years.
Yeah, while they have Rashawn Slater. So you're in mourning that not only he's at Chargers, he's not playing his best position.
Exactly.
That he can be, he's an amazing left tackle. Yeah. And I know you were willing to give up, was it 7 years worth of picks?
Not that bad, but
6 years. Six straight years worth of first rounders for Joe Alt.
To get to 5, you would have had to include at least 3 ones. So,
you were getting up to 5, yeah. And there was talk about like maybe the Chargers taking J.C. Latham because, well, this guy's always played right tackle. You need a right tackle, and they said we're just going to take the best tackle there is, and we'll find a spot for him. And it'll be Joe Alt, and then the Titans are like, well, mother bleeper.
But the crazy thing is that I think the Chargers could have. I do think that there was a difference between Alt and Latham and all the other tackles. So I think they got the best one. But the thing about the Chargers is that they could have traded back for somebody who wanted to get a quarterback there, gotten some more picks, and honestly, probably still could have gotten the second best tackle on the board.
Latham.
Could have still gotten Latham.
Yeah, because then you would have had Joe Alt going to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Right.
So had they gone back to like 11 with the Vikings?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And even if they didn't get both number ones, once again, you could have moved back, still gotten some more draft capital, and still gotten the second best tackle on the board and plugged them at right tackle.
I hate that Joe Alt is a Charger, but they were picking number 5. They were going to get a really good player. I'm actually, to me, it's preferable that they draft Joe Alt rather than Malik Neighbors, because I don't want I don't want a stud playing for the Chargers. I shouldn't say another because I don't think Quentin Johnston is that. We had those discussions last year. I wouldn't have touched him with a 10-foot pole in the first round. Hated the draft pick for the Chargers. Loved it for the Chiefs when they drafted Quentin Johnston. He might be really good this year, but he showed this last year what I thought that he was. I've said and joked that if Malik Neighbors' dad was a Hall of Fame wide receiver, he would have been the first receiver taken. And I do believe that.
Possible,
I think Malik Neighbors was the best receiver in this draft, and it's blasphemous. And I've had people push back. It was like Marvin Harrison was cruising this year because he didn't want to get injured, and Malik Neighbors was trying to be a top 10 pick, so that's why you saw the difference there. I think Malik Neighbors is just different. He's just simply different. And so I would have taken Malik Neighbors first overall, or not first overall, but if I'm taking a wide receiver and I've got my choice of all of them, Neighbors would have been the guy I went with. And I'm glad that he is in New York playing for the Giants and not playing with Justin Herbert. It sucks that he's playing with Daniel Jones. But for Malik Neighbors' standpoint,
he's going to have a highlight reel 600-yard season.
Exactly.
It's OBJ part 2.
Danny Jones.
Yeah, it does feel like OBJ part 2 without Eli Manning to throw him the football.
Well, that was also the end of Eli, though. It wasn't like that's prime Manning.
At least
there.
it was named Eli Manning.
Yeah.
It wasn't Daniel Jones or whoever the heck
Danny
that
Dimes.
is. Yes.
I will say, though, going to your point, I agree with everything you said. They probably could have traded back and got the draft capital, all that stuff. But I think in their mind, too, they made the right move of, we don't care. We want our guy. We want the clear-cut best tackle on the board.
And we're going to play him out of position.
But it's perfect Charger, though, right?
That is really good.
It's so perfectly Charger.
Yeah. I mean, and it wasn't. I mean, even if I don't agree with the thought process behind it and everything, it was not the worst move in the AFC West last night. So.
Denver.
Really? What was the worst move? The Raiders with nobody to throw the football to somebody they draft to play tight end with Michael Mayer? Or was it Denver? Look, if you got a chance to draft the 6th quarterback in the first round, you can't pass that up.
No, you really can't. I mean,
12th overall, by the way. No, we're not talking 32. We're talking 12th.
If you get a chance to get a quarterback with a 2nd-round grade in the first round at number 12, I mean, you got to jump at it.
What are you talking about? Sean Payton is like...
I know. He's the second coming of Patrick Mahomes.
Believes in him the way that he believed
in
in Patrick Mahomes. So
yeah, because, Bo Nix in his
sure what you're
18th year in college was throwing for 750 yards a game. Yeah, that's quite comparable. Yeah, I think,
So, by the way, somebody tweeted me and said, your first look at Xavier Worthy in a Kansas City uniform, and it's Terrence Gore in a Royals uniform. It's pretty good. I like that. He's much taller than Terrence Gore, but the comic relief I appreciate.
Creed Humphrey has already won the Xavier Worthy meme game, so that's
brilliant.
That was that
Did
contest.
you see that one, Sterling?
No.
He
Creed's Twitter account.
Creed's Twitter.
For those that didn't see it, go check out Creed's Twitter account. But it's a bigger kid running with a couple of smaller kids, and he loses his balance and falls, and Creed Humphrey says, this is me trying to get out on the wide receiver screens.
It's like him and Trey Smith.
Me trying to get out to the wide receivers on the screens, and he's going way too fast. He's top heavy, and he just falls over. It was a great tweet. And by the way, a lot of Chiefs were very excited about Xavier Worthy. Drew Tranquill, bleep it, Xavier down there somewhere. How about Drew Tranquill? He's been in Kansas City 5 minutes, and he already knows the Aaron Ladd, F it, Tyreek down there somewhere.
And he wasn't even on the team when that was born.
That's what I'm saying. He's been here 5 minutes. That was before him.
Well, because he was sitting there in San Diego / L.A. just going, man, they look like they're having so much fun in Kansas City. That's what he was doing. He was sitting there watching Kansas City highlights.
He was, and you know what? I've really, really appreciated Drew Tranquill because he's willing to have fun. And when we had him on getting ready for the Super Bowl, we joked about his text message, the tweet that he put out, the screenshot with Andy Reid saying, when you think red, think Super Bowls. And we joked about the fact that he had like 160 unanswered texts, and then his percentage was like 3% battery, and joked with him that, is this just a full year of you avoiding everything that has to do with the Charger?
Wow.
And his answer was yes.
There you go.
He was like, yes, I'm boycotting Chargers for this year. And then at the parade, grabbing the mic from McKenzie in the parade route and going, this wouldn't happen in L.A. This wouldn't happen with the Chargers. This is right here. He kept like,
Johnny Gomes 2.0. That's Johnny Gomes.
Like, Drew, you can't steal my heart more than you already did. What are you trying to do? I'm swooning already, sir. And then tweeting out, Xavier down there somewhere.
Xavier down there somewhere.
Which is just fantastic. All right, let's talk about the trade. Matt Derrick, Xavier Worthy. Now, on the 41 is the Mike podcast, you and Nick have done a great job of going through different positional groups and talking about different prospects on different positional groups. So you've done the offensive line and the wide receivers and, the defensive players and things like that. So you've had a podcast already where you went through the wide receivers. Before we talk specific Chiefs, I'm just curious, before last night, what was your view of Xavier Worthy?
My view of Xavier Worthy was that he is a ridiculously fast receiver who is probably ready for the NFL right now, as it is, who is 165 pounds. And there's a difference. I mean, I heard you guys talking about it on the way in. I mean, there's a difference between getting hit in the Big 12, getting hit in college, and getting hit by the guys in the pros because they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. And that's my question, is just going to be the durability. I get that he didn't have any injuries in college. Well, probably he didn't get hit a lot in college because he was faster than a lot of other guys. But, Tyreek is almost 20 pounds heavier.
Yeah, right. He's
and
thick.
a half-inch smaller.
Yeah, he's thicker.
So, I mean, that's the thing is that, and Tyreek was really thick. And even Tyreek took some bruises and bumps. I mean, he had the collarbone injury. He had I know he had the one day in practice where he had the thigh bruise and the bone bruise. I mean, it wasn't like that bad of a hit. I mean, that's the thing is that, those things can happen. I mean, it can happen at the pros. I mean, we'll see But that was my only concern was going to be that, hey, at 165, and you mentioned Tank Dell. I mean, that's really the best, 165-pound receiver in the NFL right now.
And he got hurt in the first year.
The last receiver at 165 pounds or less to have a 1,000-yard season in the NFL was in 1984. And there's only been 3 players who've done it since then if you go up to 170. And those are some really good receivers. Drew Hill did it back with Houston in the 90s 5 times.
Cisco?
No, but who's the other? Anthony Carter with Minnesota did it 3 times in the 90s. And then Devontae Smith has done it the last 2 years with Philadelphia. So, you're talking about, hey, there are some good receivers that are 170 pounds or lighter that can be very productive. There's a lot that aren't. And, so we'll see. But obviously, Chiefs view him as a multiple purpose player. He can return kicks, return punts. Obviously, he's going to do that right off the bat. I would expect, hey, they're going to work him into the rotation. Is he going to be the number 3 starter lined up right now? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it'll be just how much you can quick pick everything up. But I will say, this is my take about, and this applies to everybody. It applied to Tyreek really to me set the tone for it, which is that speed is great. That's all fantastic. But unless he works diligently every off season like Tyreek did to figure out how to be able to turn directions and move your hips and do the things that receivers have to do to get separation, speed's not going to be enough. So he's got to do more.
I find this really interesting because going back to the Amon-Ra St. Brown thing, when I was talking with him, he goes, you guys get so enamored with the combine, with bench press, with 40-yard times. He goes, I can tell you right when and where if a guy's going to be good or not. He goes, a lot of times it goes back to production in college, right? Production is a big indicator of this. Well, okay, Xavier Worthy is fast. Yes, who cares? Throw the 40 time out the window. Just throw it out for a second. He averaged over 900 yards a season in 3 years. As a freshman at 18 years old in the Big 12, dude went for nearly 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. He's had, 26 touchdowns in 3 years? 12 games, 13 games, 14 games? Was it 23 punt returns last year, 40 punt returns in his career? So yes, he is smaller, but we are potentially talking about the outlier of a guy whose smaller body handles it well, because he's not shown this ability to get injured in college again, like even some other Ladd McConkey. I love Ladd. He's been injured. Xavier Legette, big guy, right? He's been injured a lot.
Well, and look at the production between those two, Xavier Legette and Xavier Worthy. You're talking about a massive difference in receptions and yards and touchdowns, and Xavier Worthy played 14 fewer games in his college career than Xavier Legette did. I mean, because that also matters. It's like, what did you do in college? Yeah, but how many games did you play too? Because Roman Wilson in Michigan played 46 games. Xavier Worthy played 39 games. I mean, Xavier Legette played 53 games in college to put up the numbers that he did, which was a total of 113 receptions. Xavier Worthy, 14 fewer games, had 197 receptions in his career.
And I just think we get so enamored, and I understand why. It's the NFL, it's hard hits, all this stuff, but we go, small guy, he has to be injury prone. Big guy, he's built for this. Bo Jackson, the big, again, freak injury, maybe the biggest physical freak of all time, right? Injury. I just think we get so caught up in the narratives instead of the individualities of certain players. Big guys can get injured. They get injured all the time in the NFL, and no one ever says, well, it's because they're. I just think we're already throwing Xavier Worthy out because he's smaller. And I think it's unfair.
I don't think people are doing that. I think there's a question and a concern of that. As much as I love the Xavier Worthy pick, and we talked about it 3 weeks ago about I do believe he's a good route runner. I do believe he has really good ball tracking skills, and I think that matters for a wide receiver. And he had the production in college, some of those things that I think correlate to the NFL. I'm a route running guy. I like guys that can run really good routes. He's not the crispest and cleanest route runner, but he's not John Ross. He's not McCole Hardman. He's not, well, he's really, really raw at doing this, but man, he's fast and they'll teach him how to play wide receiver. He's not a sprinter that plays wide receiver. He's a wide receiver that has sprint speed. So I think there's a difference with that with Xavier Worthy. But the size is legit of a concern, and I think the historical precedent that's there to see what's more likely to happen. Is he more likely to be one of these thin receivers that's really fast that is just okay, production-wise? Or is he more likely to be a Devontae Smith, a Deshaun Jackson, etc.? I think those comps are worth bringing up because it would be I think it's Chiefs-colored glasses to go, well, no, this guy's going to be the outlier like Devontae Smith and Deshaun Jackson. He's going to be different than those other guys that sort of are thrown into this huge pool of thinner receivers that have speed that don't really make it work at the NFL level. I think that I don't think it's a great strategy to say he's going to be the outlier. He's going to be a Devontae Smith. He's going to be a Deshaun Jackson. I hope he is. I hope he's that guy. He's got a lot of the things that I think are closer to those guys than just other sprinters that are there. But his, the thinness of his body, and even if he puts on pounds,
sure,
his legs are not going to turn into tree trunks, okay? His legs are not going to get bigger. He's wiry. So the pounds that he puts on, and how much did he get down to that weight? So he could run 4.21. Yeah. Like I'm losing weight, losing weight, so I can get 4.21. I'm light as hell. Now I'm going to put on the weight and play at 172.
He was 4 pounds heavier on his pro day than he was his combine.
Right,
so.
And now I'm going to play at 172 and not 160, whatever he weighed in at the draft. So now I'm going to play with the Chiefs at 172. I'm going to put on weight. I may not be 4.21, but I'm still 4.25.
I forgot. I bought into the NFL accounting of height and weight, which you can sometimes add a couple of inches once you get out of the combine and be good on an NFL roster, which the case was Tyreek Hill, because I was buying into the, Tyreek's 5'10". At his pro day, he was 5'8", 185. So that gives you an indication about, just how thick Tyreek was. And that's a difference. I mean, 2 inches and 20 pounds is a difference.
So Xavier Worthy was his combine 5'11", 165?
Yeah.
Was that the combine? Okay.
Yeah.
So then he was
5'11", 169 at the pro day.
Okay, nice. And so then, if he adds what Brett Veach said, 175 is what they'd like to see him at. That's 6 pounds.
Yeah, the college 6'1" I don't think is sticking.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not 6'1", but he's also not 5'6". He's also not a burner that's 5'5" or something like that.
Tyreek at 5'8", 185 ran a 4.29.
Agreed. Yeah, he was an athletic freak because of his 185 being as fast as he is. And you're more likely to see a Hollywood Brown or a Xavier Worthy running the sub 4.3s, not Tyreek Hill, who is just a freak of nature because of how fast he is and how thick he is.
Yeah, if Worthy, goes to that 175, 180 like Brett Veach was talking about and can still do a 4.29, that is not a problem. Yeah. That's going to be the goal. I mean, they're going to try and put good weight on him. They're going to put him in the strength room, trying to strengthen him up there. That's also what Tyreek did. I don't think that Tyreek, if you tell me, I wouldn't be surprised if Tyreek was like maybe 190, 195 because he just kept putting on pure muscle while he was while he was with the Chiefs. So, but once again, you look at Tyreek as a rookie, and even though I get, Andy Reid, they're trying not to compare him to Tyreek Hill, and I get that.
Yeah.
But we're all going to do it anyway, and he's gonna end up playing the Tyreek positions.
I prefer that comparison to Ted Ginn. I'd prefer that to Ted Ginn Jr.
Maybe you wanted the Deshaun Jackson comparison.
So. I like that one too.
But you're gonna the comparisons are gonna happen. But the thing is that, Tyreek, his rookie year, the receiver that he became was night and day from the receiver that he was even 2 years later. But that's because it goes back to what I've said before on this show, is that in the NFL, you do not get better between July and January and February, which are the Chiefs, because you're putting in game plans, you're just learning the scheme, you're learning the offense. You are not improving your craft during the season, during training camp, none of that. It is all teamwork. I mean, that's if you get better, it's only because of the guys you're going up. I mean, the old iron sharpens iron. If you want to get better in this league, you do it on your own time between March and June. That's when you get better. And that's where Tyreek absolutely excelled. I mean, he went out and got his own wide receivers coach, worked with him, put in the time, and that's how he got better. Xavier Woods is going to have to do the same thing. So if he should right now call up just Tyreek and say, who'd you work with? What'd you do? I mean, I know who he worked with. He can't work with him, but get somebody else. And I mean, whatever he does this year, that would be the difference between this year and next year. And that's what the Chiefs. I mean, just final point on this before I know you have to go to break. But that's the thing is that. Brett Veach's point was that this was not a selection for 2024. This is because they need him for the next 4 years after that. Because you don't have Hollywood Brown under contract. Don't have really anybody outside Rashee Rice under contract beyond 2024. So, yeah, I mean, this was about the future more than anything else.
Matt Derrick is our guest, presented by Cap One Lending. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling. More with Matt Derrick. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast right after this. Men, if you're out there and you're suffering from erectile dysfunction, no longer the acceptable thing to just remain quiet and not get it treated because it can affect your life, relationships, mental health, can impact your partner because oftentimes they may think it is their fault. Some men wait as long as 2, even 3 years to address the issues that are going on. If you have the symptoms of ED, why wait?
I thought they would go receiver. And based on that, I mean, yeah, it certainly looks like they probably would have taken Worthy. And so that was probably Brett Veach just knowing the board, knowing, who would work with him. Yeah, I mean, we're all stunned that the Bills would make the trade, but the Bills, honestly, I mean, they don't feel like, I mean, their front office, they don't feel like they got fleeced on the Patrick Mahomes deal. I mean, they feel like they got good value in the trade, and maybe they may not have maximized the value for those picks. And we're the only, like you said, I mean, Kansas City's the only one that equates the McDuffie trade with Buffalo of jumping in front of them. Nobody else does. So Buffalo might, but that's not going to stop Buffalo from trying to get better. And that's the other thing too, is that Buffalo, I mean, look at the offseason that they've had. I mean, they need bodies, and they need good bodies. So for them being able to improve 2 picks and then even move back again and get an additional pick, I mean, that's what Buffalo needs. And they need everything. They need defense. And receiver is a spot where obviously you're going to be able to get a receiver that can play into the 4th round in this draft. So I still don't think they're going to take a receiver in the 2nd round tonight to start things off. Yeah, I think they're going defense.
I've seen a number of mock drafts already that just have them taking Cooper DeJean from Iowa.
I think they should. It seems like a smart move.
So I thought maybe sitting there, okay, well they're going to take A.D. Mitchell, and that's the guy maybe they wanted all along, and then hey, you end up getting your guy, and you get a few extra picks as well, and you get a discount because you don't have the 30% increase in contract in a 5th year and all that stuff that the Panthers are now paying surplus and an increase for Xavier Legette.
To do that for Legette just baffles me.
They must have thought that other teams were talking with the Bills at that point. That other teams, so they aren't risking it.
Yeah, well,
we're moving up to get
the Vikings paying, I guess, a Broncos and Raiders tax to move up from 11 to 10 because it wasn't like the Jets were taking a quarterback at 10.
Shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. Although that would have been just as shocking. Well, maybe, I don't know if it wouldn't have been just as shocking, but it would have been pretty shocking. The Jets taking a quarterback just as the Falcons ended up taking a quarterback.
I was convinced, because when I was talking about how this draft was going to unfold, and I'm like, okay, the Giants are another one. As I've said, there are 8 teams in the NFL at any one particular moment in time who do not know what they're doing. Right now, Atlanta Falcons #1 with a bullet. I mean drafting Penix and making that move. I mean, you've known he was going to be there at 8. You've known that for 7 weeks. You've known that from the moment that Kirk Cousins put his name on the contract that he was going to be available at 8, and you wait until you're turning in the card to say, oh, hey, by the way, can somebody get Kirk on the phone? We need to let him know something.
We've been trying to get a hold of him, but he's been at Costco, and he's busy. And, well, at that point, he was probably already asleep. He had already read his 3 chapters for the night and had a drink and went to sleep for the next day. So
fell asleep shopping on Kohl's.com.
Well, he had to wake up early to go fishing. We all knew this.
That's a good point,
He had to wake up early to go fishing.
Get his flannel on.
That pick was so bad that, I now question the quality at Home Depot, because if Arthur Blank runs his business is that bad, it makes me wonder what else is going on at other places.
Well, they said Cousins was shocked when he heard that, and I agree. Apparently, Cousins was just as shocked as everybody because he never believed someone would pay him $180 million. He was shocked. Hold on, somebody's willing to pay me $180 million? I am flabbergasted.
$180 million to compete for my job?
I am flabbergasted. Somebody still thinks I'm worth that much. Shocked, I tell you.
Well, he's like $90 million guaranteed. There's a no trade clause. You're in the NFC South where it's horrible. You expect you're going to win the NFC South this year, so you expect, hey, let's bolster and get a guy who can help us this year.
Yeah.
This year. But no, let's draft like the oldest quarterback in the draft who's had a litany of injuries. I like Michael Penix Jr. I do. I think he's a good guy. He showed a lot in that Texas game, right? He looked horrendous in the national championship game, but the Texas game, he looked really, really good. I get it if he was going in the first round. But 8? And they did this last year. They drafted Bijan Robinson when they already had a rookie 1,000-yard running back on the roster. Don't get me wrong. I like Bijan. But did it make sense? Is that going to elevate them? Like, the Falcons are in no man's land. They are so confused. I have no idea. They are literally on a dartboard. They just get names on there, and they throw Arthur Blank. He gets blindfolded. They spin him around 3 times. It's a dangerous game. It's a very dangerous game.
Yeah, not with a dart.
Yeah, we're talking the big, like, lawn dart. They're not doing plastic. These are metal darts.
Usually it's pin the tail on the donkey. This is throwing a dart.
This is throwing a dart.
This is some hardcore alpha egg stopping.
This is what you did last night for your 30th birthday.
It got crazy, man.
I knew it.
Yeah, that me sitting on the couch watching this and doing a live 6-hour stream, this was The beer counter was good,
Yeah.
though. The beer counter was
There
good.
you go. That's all good.
But yeah, I don't understand the Falcons' game plan.
Yeah.
They don't either. So
yeah.
I'm not even sure they had a game plan.
And here's the thing, though. I would have taken Penix as the third quarterback off the board. Like, I like him more than Drake May. I like him more than J.J. McCarthy. I like him more than Bo Nix. But, that also doesn't explain the Atlanta Falcons signing Kirk Cousins with the number 8 pick in the draft and then drafting Michael Penix. Like, did you not think, that he was going to be there? I think Bill Barnwell, I'm trying to find the tweet here, it is said, it's pretty incredible to think that the Falcons managed to fall in love with Michael Penix between signing Kirk Cousins in early March and the draft. Or pretty incredible that they were already in love with Penix by the open of free agency and still gave Cousins $100 million anyway. I mean, one of those things is absolutely true.
I'm just saying the next time I break my toilet seat, I'm going to Lowe's. Because
How many
How
have you
supposed to build
broken?
something together? How are you supposed to build something together? Then?
Wait. Time out. How many toilet seats have you broken, Matt?
Oh, at least a couple.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
Wait, is this a normal thing that happens?
I'm sorry.
Well, when you're a homeowner, yes, eventually.
I am a homeowner, and I
Eventually you
take
will.
care of my thrones. What's happening with you guys?
Well, here's what happens. So, especially when you have kids, so you buy the toilet seats that have the automatic sort of slow closing, right?
That is awesome, by the way.
But the kids don't realize that, and then they just push it down. And you keep trying to tell them, no. All you have to do is just pull it a little bit, and then it'll go the rest of the way. And they still just slam it down, and eventually that sort of coil or whatever will break.
That
It
seems
will
like
snap.
a you thing. Like you got to know
Right.
your squad. You're like
Agreed.
the Atlanta Falcons. You're like we're
Yeah, but-
drafting. That's
Right,
not the team.
But what's better though, them pushing it down with a little bit of
they're not going to understand.
tension, or them dropping it that has no tension and then it just slams. It'll break either way.
Well, it's like the Wonderlic score. It's like they don't know what's going on.
I've given them a Wonderlic score. They are terrible. He's 8, she's 5, and they have scored very poorly on the Wonderlic score. So it does make a
but they're
sense.
40 times are strong.
Oh my gosh, she runs so fast.
There you go.
He's going to have some trouble in the 40, but he's going to be one hell of a route runner. He's got the hands, okay?
As for me, Sterling, I mean, we all can't be a 5'11", 165 like you and Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, I mean,
some of us,
It's 170, 175.
Well, so is he.
Yeah, me and Xavier very close. The issue is the speed and all the actual athletic ability. But
picture at my prime, you and Xavier Worthy on that toilet holding Tyreek's bag of money.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know why I'd be in the toilet at the same time as him.
You
but-
gotta, you want to count in private.
Together.
You gotta
he's
count
sitting
that
on your lap.
Got to count that money in private. Brett Veach, yes, it's clip number 8. Brett Veach last night was asked, you moved up for Xavier Worthy. Were you thinking that somebody was going to trade up and take Xavier Worthy and he would not be there at 32?
Well, you don't know. I mean, that's the unknown. And, when you get to that point and then you're looking at, we moved down 38 spots. So, we still maintain picks. And, that's important throughout this process. And when you get to that point, you're so close, you always second guess yourself and you don't know. I mean, it's easy to say maybe he sat there and he would have been there. But, we saw teams move consistently. Actually, after we picked, I think there was a couple moves. So, you just don't know. And I think when you have a guy that you have a vision for and that you like and you have a chance to do something, especially with a pick swap, it just made sense for us. So at the end of the day, we'll move down 38 spots and we'll continue to, navigate and work the board. And I think that, one of the strengths of our staff is later in the draft. And so that's why we felt good about it.
So it wasn't that they thought somebody would take him. They felt like it wasn't worth waiting and risking somebody else taking him. That tells me that there's a gap between pick number or receiver number 5 and receiver number 6 for their board. That if there were 3 or 4 guys there that they felt like are indiscernible, then you don't move up 4 spots to take one of those guys. There was 1 through 5 and then a group of other receivers.
Yeah.
That maybe, as he talks to clusters or groups, pockets. That's what he calls it, pockets.
Pockets.
So maybe this first pocket was 5 receivers. Maybe it was 3. And then a pocket of 2, maybe with Brian Thomas and then Xavier Worthy, and then another pocket starting with, whoever else, A.D. Mitchell. But clearly, it's not that they thought, somebody's going to go get Xavier Worthy. That's who we want over these other 3. Let's move up and get it. It's we aren't willing to risk it. That's how much we believe in this guy. We aren't willing to risk him not being there 3 more picks from now.
And this is probably a good way to look at the lens, and we probably should have been talking more about this last year when the Chiefs, with the selection that they made. But you're making this move. You're not moving up right there, necessarily because you're seeing that Xavier Worthy is to you. Was he one of the players that the Chiefs had like a 16 to 18 player grade on, for first round pick? No.
Yeah, no.
Because if he was, they would have traded up much earlier to go get him.
That's right.
So right now, the Chiefs are telling you, okay, this was a player we had a second round grade on, but was in the top of that, especially with the receiver group. Obviously, is at the top of that group. I think it's pretty clear, reading between the lines, Marius Mims was probably the end of that group for the tackles.
Yeah.
So had he fallen to 21-22, maybe we're talking about a different story here. Maybe that's when the Chiefs do try to go up and get him. But clearly, all the tackles that they liked, I still think that there's a reasonable chance that had a Joe Alt fallen further, like maybe 9 or 10, that maybe they do make some calls. I don't. They actually thought that's exactly where Joe Alt was going to go. They thought the Chargers were going to take him and be gone at 5. So haven't talked to anybody else that thought that, but the Chiefs did. So they apparently knew what was going on. But then, Olu Fashanu, that's another player that I think had fallen a little bit further. If that was a player and I would have had a first-round grade on him, he would have been one of my 16 to 18. Now, if suddenly he's at 21, certainly go get him. He might have even been one of the guys that, if it was available at 15, maybe you go get him. So, there was just the tackles just went earlier than I think. Certainly, I would have been willing to pay for, and certainly more than earlier than the Chiefs would have been willing to pay for with Worthy. That's a good value. It really is. If that's the guy you want, you really didn't give up much to get him. You didn't give up a player. You just gave up some slotting, and that is what you do when you trust your scouting. When you trust your scouting and you trust your development, because honestly, at most, and the one that jumps out to me, of course, is corner. You can get Dave Merritt a corner in any place, and he's going to turn him into a.
Well, that's why they
player.
got a 4th rounder, so they can go get corners in the 4th round. That's what they do.
Exactly, it is what they do.
You don't draft. If they were going to draft a corner in the 3rd round, that wouldn't have made sense.
You get your corners.
Let's move back and get them in the 4th round.
Get your corners in the 4th, the 7th, and the undrafted free agent market.
Duh.
And the occasional 6th with Rashad Fenton.
And the occasional trade up in the early 20s. But if you're not getting up to the,
trade him later. Yes.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Exactly
to
right.
replenish. To
the Falcons, for a toilet seat.
Or you trade like a 6th or 7th in anger and go get another guy. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Wrap up this hour. Coming up next.
Visit us at Hollywood Casino Kansas Speedway this spring for all the playoff hoops and hockey action, baseball, and, of course, the draft going on right now. We've got the biggest screens, the best food and drink, plus we're giving away pin cash bonuses and prizes to Pin Play Rewards members. Not a member? Join today by downloading and registering for the Pin Play app from the App Store. Unlock all the fun, including a chance to win up to $2,000 in pin cash. All this and more. Make Hollywood Casino Kansas Speedway your spring sports viewing headquarters. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700.
right, wrapping up this hour. Hanging out with Matt Derrick, Cap One Lending presents Matt Derrick. He is from Chiefs Digest and also 41 is the Mike podcast with Nick Jacobs. We will continue talking the NFL draft. The first round, some other things that took place. The Chiefs' second round, what may be on the board tonight, where the Chiefs may be looking to go. Matt, you got one more segment in you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
I owe you.
No, that's not why. That's not why. Because 2 years ago, you nailed the draft pick when you said, get to know Brian Cook. That was on a Friday, and the Chiefs had just drafted McDuffie and Karlaftis.
Out of the Deck Supply people.
That's exactly right. Casey Deck Supply, we were out there. And where Steven is right now.
Exactly.
And we said, who are they going to draft? And Matt Derrick said, I'd get to know Brian Cook. I think that's a guy that Chiefs fans should get to know. And they have.
Hey, Kansas City, Steven St. John here, live at The Deck Supply in Overland Park on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It's right off 105th and Metcalf, 7068 West 105th Street in Overland Park. I'm going to be here till 1 o'clock. Stop by and get a sandwich from Schlotzky's. So I got lunch taken care of for you. You can also get a cookie while they last. And if you want to go to the big Comets game, the big playoff game, the championship round on Sunday afternoon, stop by, tell me you want to go, and we'll hook you up with tickets to go see the Comets. Just stop by The Deck Supply. It's in the Metcalf 103 Center. Come out here and see me at 1 o'clock. You can go to any of the Deck Supply locations and get contractor pricing until tomorrow, through tomorrow, if you mention Sports Radio 810 WHB. But come out here and see me today, and we'll hook you up with we even got Comets t-shirts. How about that? I'll give you a t-shirt to wear to the game and tickets to the game. I can't do anything else, and even lunch. So stop by and see me, The Deck Supply, Metcalf 103 Center, Steven St. John, live on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
doing both to start things off with. So, and he'll just work into that rotation when we get him, the wide receiver rotation, and with Hollywood and Rasheed and Kels and the other folks. So it should give Pat another weapon there in which to use.
So I cackled last night. Kyle, can you play like the last 15 seconds of that again? So when he starts to say how he fits in the wide receiver room, if you could play that clip, and you'll hear last night, I'll try to recreate my cackle last night when I heard that.
That rotation, when we get him, the wide receiver rotation, and with Hollywood and Rasheed and Kels and the other folks. So, it should give Pat another weapon there in which to use.
That's when we get him in with Hollywood, Rasheed, Kels, and the other folks that are in the wide receiver room. If that tells you anything, all of the polishing the turd, and trying to push Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore uphill this boulder, that tells you all you need to know of how they actually view the wide receiver room with those guys when we get him in here with Hollywood, Rasheed, Kels, and the other folks.
And
I lost it last night.
And Reed did say later that he didn't want to slide anybody.
I know he didn't. I don't want to slide anybody later on,
Yeah,
but
by that point,
that was the opening statement.
The work was already done.
That was the opening statement.
I think you said something like wide receiver 3 earlier, and my thought was, oh, yeah, no, he is. Like, without it, I looked at Jason, and Jason gave me a wink, like, yeah, we know what we're talking about. We're
Justin
same
Watson
page here.
is a glue guy, folks. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no,
That's wide receiver 4.
When you said wide receiver, and then Sterling looked at me, and I gave him the wink because we listened to that clip before the show, and I was like, oh, you got to hear this. You got to hear this, because last night I lost it when I heard this. It was one of the things I want to play with Matt Derrick. It's just the other folks.
Over under right now, who has more snaps at receiver, Justin Watson or Xavier Worthy?
Well, yeah, I get the question because they are look, Justin Watson for some reason is like one of the coach's first loves in high school that you just can't quit. I mean, just like there's something about it just always going to have you returning. I don't know. I'm going to say Xavier Worthy because they traded up for him and what he brings to the table. I know they like what Justin Watson did. They like the fact that he's always in the right spot and he's willing to block. Okay,
He's solid, man. Don't bring down Justin.
He's solid.
He knows the entire playbook.
He's always that's the compliment to him, is that he's always in the right spot.
Dude's got 3 rings.
He has 3 different rings. And there is a value to Justin Watson, what he brings to the table. But I'm still going to go knee-jerk initial reaction of Xavier Worthy. And God, I really hope it's Xavier Worthy, or we will be having a different discussion about this moving up in the draft to grab Xavier Worthy if Justin Watson is getting more snaps when you've already got Hollywood and Rasheed Rice.
Remember, he's probably never going to play the first snap of an offensive drive after he returns the kick, so...
I know. By the way, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the return game with Xavier Worthy.
We're really just finding all sorts of ways that he can replace Kadarius Toney, aren't we?
Well, that's part of it, yes. But the way that I want to look at it is, it's twofold to me. It's the yin and the yang. You draft Xavier Worthy because of what he does for your offense, the speed, and then Andy Reid talking about the return game and what he can do there and the difference he can make in those hidden yards. Great, that's all part of his game of what he does. Flip side is, well, he's slight of build, he's smaller, you want to make sure he doesn't get injured, so you're going to play him on special teams and increase the risk of injury. So that's where the yin and the yang comes in of what's the value in the return game. And we don't know that in the kickoff return game yet because we haven't seen it. We know there is value there where there has never been before. Even when they were returning it at a higher clip than they have the last few years. There's going to be a bigger value because everyone is going to be incentivized to be returned. And we don't know what that wall of blockers is going to look like. So there is that value there, but like punt returns and things like that, do we want to have him out there and exposed to more injury at risk when you moved up to get him in the first round? This isn't you give up a third rounder for Kadarius Toney. You gave up you gave up the equivalent of you gave up a third rounder. Got a fourth rounder back and moving up to grab this guy.
I just want to give some context here of what he has done in the background.
Please.
I want Matt to answer that question, but he has taken 2 kick returns in his career. That was his college career. That was his freshman year. Again,
to the house. He hasn't just returned
33 yards total on kick returns.
So he's only had 2 kick returns in his entire college career?
Yes, and then punt returns, though.
Yeah, punt
returns, he's had
All-American.
He's had 40.
Yeah.
He had 22 last year, and he averaged 16.9 yards per punt return. He did have one to the house. I don't have how long that one was. He had 371 yards total, but his freshman year, he had 3 punt returns for 47 yards. And then his sophomore year, he had 15 returns for 146, still just under 10 yards per return. That's still pretty damn good, right?
Yeah.
You're taking that. So he is a very electric return man as a punt returner. But I will say, again, kick return he's not done a lot of. But with the new kick return in the NFL, our thought process is this is almost more like a punt return, or more like even a run play even. And he has taken the ball out of the backfield a few times in college. Not a lot, only 7 carries technically. That can also be labeled as an end around, right, if you're getting handed the ball behind. Right. So I don't have that in front of me, but he has at least accredited with 7 carries in his NFL career, or his collegiate career.
Yeah. So Matt, is the juice worth the squeeze? You've got the all juice team shirt on. Is the juice worth the squeeze for Kadarius Toney in the punt return game while exposing him to greater risk of injury?
For Xavier Worthy.
What did I say?
Kadarius Toney.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I know. I was there for you.
No, it's Kadarius Toney, the injuries, whatever. But obviously Xavier Worthy. Is it worth him being back there as a punt returner and risking injury?
I mean, I'm going to sound a little bit like Sterling here and saying 2 things at the same time. I'm just giving you a hard time.
2 things at the same time.
2 things at the same time.
I'm just giving you a hard time. And
do you want to throw hands?
And now I'm really, really going to end up with this somewhere at some point, coming back to haunt me. But
you probably.
I'm worried about him getting hurt, but at the same time, it's what he's good at, and it's what he can do, and it's what he can do to contribute immediately. I mean, I see him probably utilization-wise maybe being used a lot like Tyreek Hill was as a rookie. I mean, once again, avoiding the comparisons, but it's hard not to make the same kind of thoughts. I mean, I don't think they're going to probably line him up in the backfield like they did with Tyreek and run traps or anything of that nature. But, I mean, as far as, using him in the jet sweep game, using him on the orbits, yeah, I can see that. But why wouldn't you use him as a punt returner? If he can catch the football, I mean, that's going to be rule number 1. I mean, secure the football. And honestly, I mean, the Chiefs, I think, even with super aggressive Dave Toub, going to return fewer punts than you used to, even when Tyreek was returning punts. So, if he's going to return a punt, you want him because he's got some room to do it, not because he's going to get clobbered immediately. So there's got to be some judgment there. And you're right. I mean, with kick returns, it's a different game, different speed as far as the players now, so it should be, in theory, a little bit less of an injury. And, of course, he's going to be pitching the ball to Luis Rezamin at the end of every return.
That's exactly right, yeah.
So,
an underhand pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Rugby pass that takes place.
Pitching the rugby ball, so.
God, one time Reese Zammit is going to be running, and he's just going to drop the ball and try to kick it ahead, like 15 yards. One time that's going to sorry about that, guys. My bad. Yes, illegal kicking. I get it. We're back here. Won't happen again. My fault.
My bad.
The Chiefs are about to
But it was one hell of a touch kick, though, right? I mean, you saw him breaking free for 15 yards. We had it. That was
drop kicks.
Yes, that's right.
It'll be the drop kick, extra point.
I got in there. That was a try. I slid in there. I touched the ball to the ground, and I was good.
The Chiefs might be the first team to have a musical number as their opening kickoff music. You went from Rock and Roll Part 2 to now they have whatever they have now, and now it's going to be Grease Lightning.
Yeah. That's
right? That might be the first time in NFL history where it's a musical. I don't know if that's actually true or not. I'm just spitballing
Could
here.
be. Who knows?
I doubt many musicals are being thrown around for opening kickoffs, but
probably. I would doubt that. It will be odd if they, both sides line up across from each other and is like the West Side Story, and they just stand there and they snap. So they're getting ready to kick off.
Both managed to start snapping at the same time was very impressive. You two have spent too much time together already.
Clearly.
I'm a drummer. I can tell what he's going to do.
Yeah, that's right.
I know what he's going to do before he does it.
My view on the punt return is, I'm worried about the injury, certainly, but I don't think I can play my game worried about the injury. I'm worried about Patrick Mahomes getting injured.
Yeah,
but I want Patrick Mahomes out there every single time taking the snap. If you're drafting Xavier Worthy to be the guy that can create mismatches on offense, maybe for himself, maybe for Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce and Hollywood Brown, etc., and one of the things that he brings to the table is his playmaking ability as a punt returner, and he will catch the ball, then I don't see why you would not take him off the punt return game because you're scared of him getting injured. If you're scared of him getting injured in the punt return game, you'd be scared of him getting injured as a wide receiver as well. Now, I am always team no punt returner. As long as you have Patrick Mahomes, I'll be team no punt returner. But if you're drafting him as somebody that's going to add value there, I can't play the season scared of injuries. I just can't. I got to play the season and put my guys out there. I mean, they were playing Jerick McKinnon, who had just come back from a groin injury on special teams. And he hurt his groin again, and he had to have surgery. I'm not saying that was ideal. I wouldn't have done that.
I mean,
but
if Xavier Worthy is nursing a groin injury, maybe not put him back on punt
exactly.
returns. It could be lesson learned.
Yeah, maybe each and every time have an individual basis. Because he wasn't the punt returner every single time for Texas. He didn't return every single punt for Texas, just as it turned out to be for Tyreek Hill. He wasn't the punt returner every single time, but every once in a while, it's like, all right, let's
As a rookie, he pretty much was. So
that's true. Yeah, and we're talking about specific rookie years, so that is true. But as he grew, it was okay. Let's put Reek back there. Let's see what we can do with a big play here. Let's put Tyreek back there, and maybe that's something they'll do with Xavier Worthy as the years go on. But in the first year, if they're looking and going, he's going to create mismatches for us offensively. So putting him on special teams is where you'll get more of a tangible yards value from him early on throughout this year, like continuing to make the comparison of that's not fair to him of Tyreek Hill in just the usage of how they utilized him.
I mean, remember, we're still talking about only one. Actually none, I guess, because Deshaun didn't even do it. You're talking about, as far as a rookie receiver hitting 1,000 yards. Rashee Rice didn't do it, and last year his usage. Some of it was absolutely just forced into duty because other guys weren't performing and they had to play him more than they wanted to and were planning to.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's going to be the same thing this year, except now if Rashee's punishment doesn't happen until next year and he plays a full 17 games, stays healthy or anything of that nature, same thing with Hollywood. You're hoping to get more production out of him. The idea would be that they wouldn't have to push Worthy into it, but everything I heard last night from Andy Reid and Brett Veach is saying that you can kind of see the same type of Tyreek usage. That he's going to be sprinkled into the offense, but it's going to be part of the rotation. Justin Watson will still be part of the rotation. There's going to be a fifth and maybe a sixth and possibly even a seventh receiver in that room who's going to get some time and going to get some snaps here and there. So and they're still going to run 12 personnel, and he might not be out there for some of those. He's not going to play 80% of the snaps. He might play 40% of the snaps on offense as a rookie, which would be a good number for Andy Reid, because it's a hard offense to pick up. There's a lot of elements, and if you want to play every down for Andy Reid on offense as a receiver, you got to know all three spots.
Yep.
So if that's the case, and the bulk of his work and touches ends up being on special teams, that's not a big loss. That's, to me, that's part of the transition process. And then we've seen it. We've seen it with Tyreek. We saw it with Hardman. We saw it with Pacheco. You start out on special teams as a rookie. You get your touches on offense when you've got things that and you can learn. And then as you pick up more of the offense, your special teams work decreases until it goes away completely.
Weird little, I don't want to say tangent here, but something I noticed is, what does this mean for Kadarius Toney? Because if Worthy is now
you mean one of the folks?
One of the folks.
The other folks?
Again, we heard Brett Veach speak glowingly about him just about a week ago. Obviously, it could be some disconnect of what Veach thinks and what Andy Reid thinks. But again, I think a lot of us thought, well, it's cheaper. You save no money by cutting him, so he's probably going to be here. But now he really doesn't have a role if Worthy is also playing special teams. You're just carrying him for the sake of carrying him. What does this mean for Kadarius Toney?
Well, to a degree, you don't really have to make a decision until September. Until cut down. You've got a 90-man roster. You can keep him out there. One of, I would say, three things are most likely. One is, I would guess, just more of the same, which at some point in OTAs or training camp is going to get hurt, and that'll change the equation, and you just have to figure out what will happen after that.
No, if you can just avoid it's the injuries. That's the only issue, according to Brett Veach. It's just if you can figure out the injury issue. And as I said with Adam Teicher on Tuesday, I don't remember his hands being injured.
if he stays healthy, then hey, if he's good enough to play, he's going to make the team, and they'll find a place for him, and maybe he'll share special teams reps. Who knows? Third option, and there's others, but the predominant ones to me would be that he stays healthy, he plays well enough that, hey, maybe you're able to flip him for a 7th-round pick. Somebody else is going to take a chance on him. I don't think anybody else is going to take a chance on him for $2.85 million or $2.9. And then we haven't ruled it out. I mean, the Chiefs could still, between now and Tuesday, pick up his 5th-year option. So I just wanted to.
I'm glad you winked at me just to make sure I picked up on that.
Can we see what those faces looked like on the stream later? Because I desperately wanted to see your faces when I said that out loud.
You probably could. Just watch it back later.
You both winked at me today, by the way, which is just I don't know how to take.
You look different as a 30-year-old.
The great thing is that you started laughing and you got angry.
No, I just shook my head. I was like, no, I'm with you. I liked it though.
You look like I had just kicked your dog.
I don't have a dog, so I mean that would have been like that look would be, where did they get a dog from?
You look like I had just broken your toilet.
Like, don't worry, that one was already broken. It was in the kids' room. It's all good. All right, so where do they go tonight? What are the positions? Not even tonight. They've got a pick tonight. They've got 2 4ths, couple of 5ths, and other picks. But where do they? What are the positions you think they'll be addressing overall? And then we'll get a thought on tonight.
There's one player in particular that I'm really curious about, and that's Jonathan Brooks. And I am sure that there are absolutely some people who are freaking out when I say running back in the 2nd round, and one of them is in the room.
I think Briscoe just texted me, punch Matt for me.
Yeah,
it was odd. I don't know, why did he just text me? We hadn't even had time to get to his ears with the delays and everything on live radio.
I have my pitchfork ready.
For those wondering, that's running back. Jonathan Brooks from
Yes.
Texas.
Coming back from an injury.
Well, the thing is, there's such that connection with Sarkisian and Andy Reid and the BYU thing with Texas players, so it would make sense for them to finally draft a Texas player.
Can't get enough of those Texas
You can just
players.
ask Xavier, what do you think about Jonathan Brooks? What do you think Jonathan Brooks is? What if they hated each other, though?
What if it didn't go to his birthday party, like Bo Callahan or
See,
something?
there you go. That's a great question.
Thank you.
It's a really great question. So keep an eye on Jonathan Brooks.
I'll be interested to see where he goes. So
Okay.
we'll test it out.
I hope he gets drafted early, so we don't even have to have this conversation.
Yeah,
Like,
if he
I hope
goes-
he goes early in the second. It's like, okay, fine, thank you.
Well, Trey Benson's still available.
If he gets there like
Jonathan Brooks
50, I'll be interested to see what happens after
Interesting.
that.
Okay, so that's a name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm still interested in to see how wide receivers, what happens tonight. I'm not sure that the Chiefs are going to go after a receiver, but especially at 64, it's going to be really, really tough for them to get back into the 3rd from 133, because to get there,
Well, they've got next year's 3rd if they needed to do that.
Yeah, but
They haven't used
you know
that.
what? But here's the thing. I mean, you go back to like what Brett Veach was talking about on last week. I mean, next year's 3rd is worth more than this year's 3rd. So next year's 5th is more valuable than this year's 5th. So, I mean,
I think it is.
if you look at,
I think people downgrade.
I don't want
future
to.
year
The
picks.
10% discount's the typical going rate. It feels like.
If I was going, I mean, I was willing to give up anything for Joe Alt for a large degree, but he was the only one. I mean, after that, I don't want to give up any of my 2025 picks, especially now. I mean, it made sense if you wanted to use that 3rd from Tennessee, if you needed to move up into the 20s to get a tackle that you wanted, that would have been prime currency. But now, looking at this, yeah, I mean, you could use next year's 3rd, but you know what? It's going to be more than that, because everybody's going to assume that that's number 96. So it's not like you're going to be able to just get that 3rd. You're
Well,
gonna
next
have to throw
year's
something else.
Well, I mean, next year's 3rd. If you use the Titans next year's 3rd, so you
Well,
wouldn't
that'll
have-
be a good one.
Yeah, you wouldn't
so,
assume that one was that.
Maybe
but-
you don't want to give that one up.
Yeah,
then.
right.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if you just assume that next year's 3rd rounder was the Chiefs that they would have to trade, which that would be ideal. If you're going to trade one of the 3rd rounders next year, it would be your 3rd rounder next year, because odds are the Titans are going to be worse than you this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, they could. I mean, but it's just, hey, would be the question, is there a player here that you think is better than what you can get in the 3rd next year? And I'm just not sure that that's going to be the case. So that's why I think it's going to be difficult to get back in.
So what if around 50, something like that, Rosengarten from Washington, Rowan Gardner from Washington. We've talked a lot about Kingsley Suamataia on the show, as whether or not maybe the Chiefs would take him in the 1st round or trade back and take him. he starts to slide because there were all these tackles that were taken earlier, and the teams that are drafting early in the second round also have taken some of those tackles. Yeah. So those players start to slide. Is that something where the Chiefs may go, all right, it's going to be worth it for us to move up from 64 to 50 because Kingsley should have been gone by 35. We had these tackles that we said after 35 or 40, it was going to be a drop-off, but these are guys that are there. This guy shouldn't be there. And even if it's not Kingsley, hell, Blake Fisher from Notre Dame is still there, something like that. Rosengardner from Washington, I mentioned that one, is still there. People like Patrick Paul from Houston that can play left tackle. Yep. If it's something like that, is that something to keep an eye on? That if you start to see the tackle slide, that the Chiefs then may be worth wheeling and dealing at that point.
I'll even throw in Dominic Pooney from Kansas,
right down the street.
Do you see him as a tackle or more of a guard? More of like he can fill in a pinch, like a Willie Bloomquist, but for football.
That would be one of the other fellas, Sterling.
One of the other fellas.
I'm looking at the most important thing.
Because he played, Pooney played guard and center at the Senior Bowl, right? Like he was mainly interior.
And I know a lot of places have him listed as a guard. Some have him listed as a tackle.
But it also doesn't have to be in the second round that they take a tackle. I mean, if they go draft Donovan Smith, because, again, Trey Smith is on his last year. Creed Humphrey is on his last year. They have to figure out who they're going to sign. Joe Thuney is really, really expensive. So it ain't exactly like Thuney, Creed, and Trey Smith are the guys moving forward forever.
And, here's the thing. That's
33 3/8, by the way. I know you're looking at his arm like 33 3/8.
Exactly what I
knew what he was looking at,
I
too.
knew he starts going through papers. I go, I'm looking this up for you.
Yeah, I knew that it was what he was looking up, too. I just didn't have it in front of me.
Exactly what I was looking for. But see, that's the thing. He would be a player that high end would be, hey, maybe he works out of the tackle, even though his arms are a little short. But then again, you're the Chiefs. You also have a need at guard. So if his fallback is that he's a really good guard, that's okay with me. Yeah, tackles is a huge position that I'd be looking at in the second round to see who falls, where they are. There are, I think, players. Rosengarten's a guy I would move up to go get. I think that the Chiefs are interested in Paul, so I think there's a guy like that where they would be interested. There's a handful, and and Kingsley's obviously been connected to them a lot. If he starts to fall, that could be a possibility. So really, almost any position. Corner could be a position that they look at tonight too. especially because there's still some good corners out there.
Cooper DeJean is still there. The thing, the board was much different than I think a lot of people thought, because they didn't expect 6 quarterbacks to go in the first round. So those quarterbacks going pushes, it just naturally what happens, it pushes everybody else down. So Bo Nix goes in the first round. Okay, that was a surprise. There's one first rounder now that's now in the second round. That would have been gone. Et cetera. That's just simply what happens. And so some of those guys are there. I didn't expect Cooper DeJean to be there. A lot of people were upset that I saw a reaction last night that the Chiefs traded up to take Xavier Worthy when they could have taken Cooper DeJean. It's like, wow, you had that guy right there. Why didn't you just take him? There's certainly some value there. Kool-Aid McKinstry and Rakestraw are guys that if they start to slide, you wonder what the issue is there, or what the view is. Lassiter, if he starts to slide, do the Chiefs like him a lot? So how do they view some of the guy in their not backyard, but Tampa is at Iowa State, not necessarily your backyard, but somebody around the Big 12 that you would have an area scout that wouldn't have to go far to watch them. So guys like that you think maybe should be high second rounders or mid second rounders, that all of a sudden they're there late. Not necessarily that you're moving up to get them, but you're on the board at 64, and it's like, okay, well, TJ Tampa's here, and we didn't think he would be. So with our second pick, we're going to take Tampa too.
I had
you know what? I just knew you were.
Sorry.
I knew that was the direction you were going the moment you started laying that out. That was just.
That was
a lot of work to get there, but I respect
that. Actually wasn't what I was planning on doing. It wasn't until I figured out the second round pick would be Tampa. The other parts are actually
to take him, right?
No, but the other parts are
no way.
the other parts were genuine about Lassiter, about Tampa, about Rakestraw. Guys are there. Those first couple. DeJean not going to be there, but Kool-Aid's not going to be close to where they move up, and I don't think Rakestraw will be either. But other guys that if they start to slide, you're like, okay, well, let's keep an eye on this guy.
I'm not going to rule out a bunch of positions for you, so this might just be an absolutely useless statement. But I'd be stunned if the second round pick isn't defensive line, offensive line, wide receiver, or corner. That's.
Yeah, I don't think they're going punter either.
Unless it's Jonathan Brooks.
I don't think they're going punter.
Not going
either.
punter, not going specialist, not going quarterback, not going linebacker.
Yeah.
The biggest sleeper of all would be safety.
Yeah.
I'm not going safety quite yet.
I don't think I would go safety either.
Were you surprised when they traded up and did not grab Cooper to Dockers. To Levi's. I'm just going to
See?
keep going with different pants.
See, I didn't do that.
Man.
That
To
wasn't
Gap.
me.
Man.
Debuckle. It's debuckle.
It's debuckle. Yeah, that's fine.
Were you? But I was a little surprised because I figured he would have been in the 16 to 18 first rounders that Brett Veach has. It felt very Trent McDuffie to me. I'm sitting here going, how was no one taking him? Because even in every single mock draft I think we've done, there has been zero where he's fallen that far. He's top 10, top 15 every single time. And by the way, his comp that everyone keeps throwing out is L'Jarius Sneed. It feels like it would have been a perfect fit. Were you surprised at all?
No, because unless you've got somebody like McDuffie that is truly a first-round elite talent that the Chiefs really love to go get.
And you didn't think Cooper was?
I don't think he's McDuffie. No.
Okay.
No, I don't think he's on that level.
You know, well, the thing is, though, he's really smart. He's a gym rat. He's really sneaky athletic, is Cooper DeJean. Like, he's got that, you don't think of him as an athlete. He's just got that sneaky speed. But, man, he is first guy there, last one to leave. Just so smart. Oh, wait, he's a white cornerback. That makes sense. No. Actually, he's an amazing athlete.
Dude's unreal.
He's not sneaky.
5 of his interceptions in 2022, 3 took back to the house.
Oh, yeah, dude.
He had a punt return for a touchdown last year, too.
Yeah, he's a freak athlete.
I would have.
Yeah.
He can go outside, inside, safety. He's.
But he is mainly a three-point shooter, so you do have to worry about that. That there's not much versatility to his game there.
And maybe the short answer right now is that all these teams went nuts and were taking offense in the first round.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Maybe that's just the defense getting left behind. And I'm sure
it's an arms race that people are trying to catch the Chiefs.
Conventional wisdom would be that after such a run on offense last night, the teams are going to be looking for the value of the defense tonight. So maybe we have 14 in a row defensive picks, but
which could push down some of those tackles.
That was another one of those conversations we had in the workroom last night. Was all these teams going offense? It just kind of ignoring the fact that Chiefs just won a Super Bowl with their defense.
Yeah.
And going into last night, their last 3 first-round picks were all defense.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
But everybody else is trying to chase them, so.
And they're trying to stay ahead.
They're
now they're trying to chase 4-2-1.
So now they're taking third-round quarterbacks in this first round at number 12. So. All
right, prediction time, Matt. Throw in a dart. Who do you think they take tonight with their second pick?
I'm going to go out on a limb.
Here, I'm gonna circle the name.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say Jonathan Brooks.
Jonathan Brooks.
There's no real insight on this one. This is just simply.
This is just to make everybody mad.
They want to. Clearly, what they feel like that they need to do for the offense to jumpstart it from last year is to get it back to 2018 and turn back the clock a little bit. The one thing after you've gotten Worthy, the one thing you're now missing is speed in the backfield.
Well, hey, that's
healthy.
Yeah.
He can do it.
I'm with you. And I looked at 4 different running backs at different levels of the draft. I don't think they're going to take a running back in the second round, so I didn't list Jonathan Brooks. But if they do, then it's sort of along the same lines of thinking that I had. But third rounder, Trey Benson. 4th/5th rounder, Isaac Guerendo from Louisville.
Yeah.
6th/7th rounder, Blake Watson from Memphis. And then the undrafted free agent being Keelan Robinson from Texas. Those are guys that have quickness and speed, that can get to the hole quickly, that can get out in space on a screen game and can turn and immediately run and not turn and look like they're in molasses while they're sort of surveying where to go. And while Isaiah Pacheco looks like he's running fast because he's pounding his legs in the ground, he's not actually running all that fast. So those are guys that have speed and quickness, have the quick 10-second burst, and also have top-end speed, which is what I think the running back room is missing since Damian Williams. Since Jerick McKinnon against the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals a few years ago, since the 13-second game, where what Jerick McKinnon offered them when Edwards-Helaire got injured was this guy's got quickness and burst that Edwards-Helaire didn't have, and he's getting out in space, and you can see the quick cuts and getting upfield, and McKinnon is slowed, and Pacheco isn't that guy, and Edwards-Helaire isn't that guy, and they still try to run some outside zone stuff, and they still try to get to the edge every once in a while, and it doesn't work, and maybe that's just to keep defenses honest, but to have somebody that actually do those things, I think it's a missing piece of the Chiefs' offense, and so those are guys at every level of the draft. I think maybe you can find somebody that can improve that speed element, which is a great point when we're talking about the Legion of Zoom that the Chiefs had, they also had a dude that went 90, broke off a 90-yard touchdown against the Vikings because he had difference-making speed in Damian Williams. They don't have that guy right now.
Nope.
So we'll see. We wrote it down. Jonathan Brooks for the Chiefs going off board, going a little bit different than.
And I don't feel Brian Cook, Nick Bolton levels of confidence on this one.
Yeah, because the last couple Nick Bolton, 3 years ago, you said Chiefs are going to draft Nick Bolton tonight. And last year you said get to know Brian Cook. Or 2 years ago you said get to know Brian Cook.
Don't have this kind of confidence. But
okay.
And if it's not, I mean, in tackle, but obviously in corner, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Receiver, I really don't think it. I mean, there's really only even a couple of defensive linemen. I mean, like Marshawn Nealon, I think there would be some interest.
And they brought
if he
Nealon
falls
in
down,
for a top 30 visit. So that's a connection there.
But and tackle is interesting because I still think there might used to be some interesting names available in the fourth, especially the way it's falling. I mean, Javon Foster from Mizzou is probably in the Mendoza line. I'm not sure that Foster would be enough competition for Wanye. So I think at that point you're probably still signing Donovan Smith.
Yeah, I think if there's nobody tonight, then it's Wanye and probably Donovan Smith as your tackles next year.
Only if somebody. And once again, I mean, I guess that fourth is late, right?
Yeah.
So it's
the
not
Bills' fourth.
Yeah, it's the Bills' fourth. So it's not like super early on Saturday. So. Even some borderline, if like Kieran Amagaji from Yale that I know Nick's really big on the podcast. For us at 41 is the Mike shameless plug. Then
so the fourth round they have just in the fourth round they have the 31st and 33rd pick of the fourth round,
and
which is 131 and 133.
I think he should go before that, but I mean it's really with the tackles it's pretty crazy as far as just this next pocket as far as the divisiveness on it, because there's going to be some boards that are going to tell you that Patrick Paul's the best tackle out there remaining. And then there's going to be some others that say he's the 10th.
So Pete Prisco had his mock draft with the Chiefs taking Patrick Paul in the first round at pick 32.
That is just a absolutely universal, continuous streak of Mike Florio wrongness from Pete Prisco.
You think Donovan Smith?
But Pete Prisco did say, when I put out my mock draft, nobody called me to tell me I was wrong. So therefore, I was actually right.
So far, I'm going to check my phone. No one has called to tell me I'm wrong about Jonathan Brooks. So
therefore,
Chief.
So if you miss, then you actually aren't wrong, because typically when you miss on something, people will tell you. They won't just laugh at you behind your back.
You don't have to call sources and ask them for information. You just put it in. You just publish it and see if anybody tells you it's
wrong.
And
then your sources will call you.
Yeah.
Come on, Deep Throat will reach out to you. You don't have to search that out.
No.
Matt Derrick, presented by Cap One Lending. Matt, you're the man as always. Appreciate it, brother.
Pleasure, my friends.
Absolutely. There's Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, and also 41 is the Mike podcast. So we let Matt Derrick go, and we go from one of our high draft picks to undrafted free agent. That's a definite drop off to Mick Schaefer. Coming up next. You know what? We go from Matt Derrick to what was that? What was that?
The other folks.
Yeah, one of the other folks will be in here coming up next.
quick after the pick, and then 15 to 20 minutes transpired before we saw Veach out there. So we had a streaming show that went on at about 10:35, and we were going to go till Veach got up there, and he finally got up there, and it was good stuff. And glad we waited. And so, but that was still 11:15, and then we did the Zoom with Xavier Worthy after that.
Yeah.
And so that took us to 11:30, and then getting everything ready for the morning show and ready for today. I was out of there by about 12:15.
Yeah, I don't judge any of the rookie conference calls or anything like that when they are just drafted. So, there wasn't anything from Xavier Worthy other than
it wasn't Worthy.
No, we didn't. I didn't even save any clips.
I got that. Yeah,
his
his last name.
His last name's Worthy.
Right. His answer to my question, obviously, I thought was a good one because I asked him about what's the excitement about all the people around you reaching out, sending you texts. How often are they mentioning Patrick Mahomes' name, and how excited are you to get to play with Patrick Mahomes? It's like, I've been telling people all year long, I'm going to play with Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to be a Chief, and nobody believed me. They said the NFL's not going to let them get you, and they did. And so I thought that was maybe the best sound.
That was a good answer. Not worthy of me saving and playing today, but it was.
But it's close.
But
Probably,
it was.
Maybe Border Patrol would have done, not the zone.
I had 13
Certainly
clips.
not the highbrow program.
I had 13 picks, and I just couldn't get to 14.
That makes
it
sense.
was right there. It was the first one on the cutting room floor. Is really what it was. But no, and I thought if you
wait, you didn't play a single clip from Worthy?
Not on the show
pick?
so far
Why
today.
not? I feel that.
We played Andy
You
Reid.
blame
We
the
played
producer here, or Dylan's gone. I met Kyle back there, and so is that the reason
Kyle's
why?
it's
somebody
Kyle.
should have put a foot in your ass and said, "Hey,
It's
play
the
sound
American
from
way, I was
Xavier
told.
Worthy." Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, we've got Andy Reid. We got Brett Veach.
Oh yeah, but Andy provided a lot of color.
He,
That's
you know what
a
he did?
lot of big things.
He invited you know what he did? He offered the funniest soundbite of the night. last
That
night.
was really good.
He offered the
I was thinking
funniest
of the
soundbite
same
of the
thing.
night.
I was thinking about, I told you earlier, the other guys. I was thinking about Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell when he said, "Yeah, the other guys
and the other folks."
I can just see.
The other folks. He'll be in there in the wide receiver room with Hollywood and Rasheed and Kels and the other folks.
The folks.
So what's Kadarius Toney and Justin Watson and Sky Moore like?
Yeah, that's them. They're firing off a round in the in the office.
Desk pop.
Kadarius Toney.
Yep, they're
Kadarius Toney definitely does the desk pop. Sky Moore,
and he's Gator because he played for Florida.
That's a great
he's
one.
Gator.
100%. Did Justin Watson talk Kadarius Toney into a desk pop?
No, I think maybe Sky Moore is the
Sky Moore?
peacock. You gotta let me fly. Yeah.
You know what? He hasn't had an opportunity.
No, he hasn't.
I'm a peacock. You gotta let me fly. Come on, just let me go out there and do the things I'm supposed to do. Come on, Andy. I'm a peacock. I love it. Yeah, that's great. The other guys, the other folks, a little Sky Moore, a little Justin Watson, a little Kadarius Toney activity last night. But yeah, we played some Andy Reid clips, and we heard some different breakdowns of what people thought of Xavier Worthy and the selection by the Chiefs and moving up to draft him. What did you think of the selection of Xavier Worthy?
Well, it's going to be an exciting pick, right? Chiefs fans are going to love this pick. It's a skill position, which is always exciting, and you have a guy that is maybe literally the fastest player in the history of football, right?
Yeah.
The fastest player.
At least
I
without
don't
pads
know.
on.
Was Willie Gault running 40s back in the day, or are they just taking his 100-meter dash time in the Olympics?
Timed.
But yeah, and then look, you got a track team now. I didn't realize till last night that Hollywood Brown was a 4.27.
Yeah,
and that's really fast as well. And if you're the second fastest on the team at a 4.27, then you've got a fast receiving core. So I think Chiefs fans are going to be really excited about it. I think in Veach, everyone trusts at this point. And look, this is a quarterback who can turn. We were talking about last night because people would bring up like, well, he's slight of build, he's not this, he's not that. I'm like, yeah, okay. If he was the full package, he would have been the number 4 pick.
That's exactly right.
There's going to be flaws in everybody, right? Especially past pick 10 or 15 or whatever. Otherwise, they would be in those first few picks. But they have the quarterback to turn 28th overall pick into looking like a 4th overall pick, right? He turned Rasheed Rice into what looked like a first-round pick last year.
Well,
right?
what was the game that Rasheed Rice had the catch on the sideline, and then he outran the linebacker to the edge, and then he ran upfield, and he got caught at like the 10-yard line, but it was like a 50, 60-yard reception. And it was like, oh, man, he got caught. And I'm like, yeah, I wish he didn't get caught either. But if he didn't get caught, he wouldn't have been there at 55.
Yes, exactly.
For the Chiefs to take him.
True.
So I'm glad he got caught at the 10-yard line because he was there at pick number 55 for the Chiefs to trade up and get.
I'll take 50 yards and first down at the 9.
Yes. Rather than
over not having him.
They took somebody else.
Yes.
I don't know who else they would have taken. I'm not sure, but he got caught for a reason because he was there at 55.
Well, Tony could have made it, but
I'll
he
take
wouldn't
that
have
over going 3 and 14, right? and getting that guy and getting a touchdown, and then going 5 and 13 the next year because of that.
Well, that's what
5 and 12. I still can't do the 17-game math.
You'll get there. You'll get there. It's fine. No, but I had said last night, or maybe it was this morning. I don't know. Maybe it was even on the show. Who knows? But said, yeah, in a perfect world, the Chiefs don't trade up from 32 to 28 to get Xavier Worthy and give up the 6th-round equivalent. But they also could have lost in the divisional round and taken him at 28.
Yeah.
Not have to move up. So I'm okay with having to sit there at 32, and then it's like, man, we really want to get our guy. And if only we were drafting at 28. Yeah, thank God you're not.
I think Nick Jacobs, he gets brought up a lot on the show, but he's into it, man. He's very smart. He was like, the 41 is the Mike co-host with Matt Derrick. I don't know if they're co-hosts or one's the main guy, one's the secondary.
Who's the boss on
that
that
right?
one?
Who's the boss? But he's like, he goes, this was Brett Veach slaying the Zay Flowers dragon, right? He didn't want to make that mistake again, right? I'm going to go if it costs me a little bit more, then it costs me a little bit more. I don't want to see San Francisco grabbing him at 31. And if you're a lucky guy, we've always said it, go and get it. I just want to figure out, is he 6'1" or 5'11"?
He's 5'11".
He's not 6 foot, right? It's one or the other. But last night we were on the set. It was right at the end of our 10 o'clock show whenever they made the pick. And so we're scrambling. We have producers scrambling. We're on our phones. I go immediately to the Texas bio. And Texas Bio is 6'1". I'm like, and so we keep the whole streaming show. I'm like, listen, this is, and I started questioning myself. I'm like, wait a second, he's 4'2", and he's 6'1", and he could have been drafted like in the 2nd round. What am I missing? And he put up numbers. I mean, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. Right. He caught touchdowns for a mega program. I'm like, what am I missing? I'm like, okay. Then later, I'm like, okay, he's really 5'11". That's it. But thanks, Texas. You only add 1 inch. That's the rule. You don't add 2. Nobody adds 2. You add 1 inch to the height.
They had him at like 6'1", 178 at Texas. Now at the Combine, he was trying to run a 4.21. So he measured 5'11", 165.
He got shorter to run you.
Well, he definitely got lighter.
Yeah.
He definitely lost weight so that he could fly a little bit faster.
I don't think, and just seeing them both play, I've heard the comp to Devontae Smith. I'm like, I don't see. He's a bigger guy, right? And in that Super Bowl, man, you just watch him up close. You saw just kind of how frail Devontae Smith was. He's not a guy that exactly avoids hits as well.
The body type, but Devontae Smith is a brilliant route runner. Like Devontae Smith was gaining separation at an elite level.
Yeah. Deshaun Jackson is I think the correct. And I think Tyreek Hill, you're putting into an unfair.
Than both those guys, and so maybe it's just camera angles.
I think it's the spandex pants that he wears at Texas instead of like football pants with pads or whatever.
I watched him torch Oklahoma State.
Yeah, that's probably what it is too.
In the Big 12 championship game, up close and personal. So he seemed like he was 7 foot tall and bulletproof.
But I do appreciate him really going full on the new football uniform pants to where they stop above the knee, and you don't actually have any pads there. It's just
because we all know it doesn't hurt at all. Banging your knee into something.
Well, I mean, he's like,
fine.
He's like, look, man, if I'm not caught, I can't get hurt. I will say this about, people talk about his toughness, and he's not a guy that just runs out of bounds. He'll turn up and lower his shoulder. But I'll also add, in the NFL, I would like him to be a guy that runs out of bounds.
You got to make some business decisions.
Yes, I don't need you to show how tough you are to pick up 2 more yards. I want you to show how smart you are by getting out of bounds and staying healthy. Okay, Tyreek Hill ran out of bounds all the time, and I loved it. I loved it. I'm doing my little juke move, not going to work. Just jump out of bounds. Here we go. All right, flip the ball to the official. Oh, you want to talk smack about me jumping out of bounds? All good. I'm about to go pick up 30 more yards. That's no big deal because you did not hurt me.
Give me 18, not the 20. I'm cool with it. You picked up the first down, get OB.
Yes, I don't need you showing how tough you are. Don't do that. Don't turn up and but he did that in college.
Fourth quarter of the Super Bowl.
That's
Lombardi
different.
Trophy on the line. Show us how tough you are.
That's exactly right. Run the quarterback sneak.
That's right.
In overtime on 4th and 1.
Yes.
That's when they'll run. That's when they'll do the naked bootleg and he'll just run it himself. They won't do the quarterback sneak. Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more of the Kansas City Chiefs as they have another pick tonight.
Maybe one.
Maybe more. We'll find out. Penix Jr. that they were drafting at number 8. Hey, Kirk, we're going to give you all this money. Come in here, look at the offense you have, and wait till we get somebody else to help you with the number 8 pick in the draft. You got a new coach. We're going to dominate the NFC South. We're going to make the playoffs this year. It's all good. We're going to get you another weapon there. I don't know, maybe like a wide receiver or something.
Tackle
that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
That's the other side of it, right? Like, you have the competition side, and then like, okay, you did nothing really to help us for this year and maybe next year.
That's right.
I will point out, though, if you're paying me $90 million guaranteed, you can confuse the hell out of me all. You can just walk around giving me riddles. Like, and I'll say, fine, cool, $90 million. That's cool with me, man. You become the Riddler.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, the competitor and all that stuff. It's very, very confusing. It's not ideal, but also, now that we've had a day to digest a little bit, you know, how long is Kirk Cousins going to be there?
2 years.
So this would be a 2-year deal now. Now you're having a guy who you don't think is ready. I just don't think it would have been Michael Penix because of the age already. He's a guy who's
already
should
24
be
years old.
Developed enough compared to some of the other guys. But I get the thought process of quarterback's the most important position, right?
Mm-hmm.
The outcomes are the same of bad, viable guy, and then superstar. I get the thought process of we need to try and elevate this team when Kirk Cousins is gone. We need to find the guy. This is who they think is going to be the guy.
Well, I've said that I liked Michael Penix as the third best quarterback in this draft as well. So I would have taken Michael Penix over Drake May. I'm just glad the Patriots took that guy. And I had tweeted out last night that you've got the Bears that took Caleb Williams. You got Washington that took Jaden Daniels. You've got New England that took Drake May. You got the Falcons that took Michael Penix. And you've got
Vikings, McCarthy.
The Vikings that took McCarthy.
Broncos, Nix.
And the Broncos that took Bo Nix. And what I like about that is, finally, the best quarterbacks in the draft are going to teams that won't be competing with the Chiefs in the AFC anyway.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, you got New England and the Broncos, like, okay, great, even if you liked those guys. But those are the two guys that I like probably the least of the 6 quarterbacks. I like McCarthy over Drake May as well as Bo Nix. But I really like Michael Penix. I mean, it would have been Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix for me. And I'm glad that, you know, after the years and years of these AFC teams getting the best quarterbacks in the draft, that is nice to see a number of NFC teams finally get some quarterbacks, okay? Have some of those guys go to the NFC. And also, Marvin Harrison Jr., Cardinals. Yeah. Malik Neighbors is heading to the New York Giants. All good. Roma Dunze heading to Chicago. Great. The quarterbacks and the playmakers in the NFC. Fantastic. And the Chiefs got a difference maker in Xavier Worthy. It was nice to see how it went last night.
These teams run hundreds of simulations, right, in their own mock drafts. Do you think they ever ran one to where 6 QBs went in the top 12 picks? It's like, you're wasting our time, Bill. It's not going to happen. or one that was like 14 offensive players go in the first 14 picks. Do you think that was ever considered?
That one intern is like, I told you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
I told
we
you.
should have done it. First half of the draft was going to be offensive guys.
Okay, so we do have to do our due diligence. Bill's simulation now has 6 quarterbacks off the board, and we're at pick 13. Ugh. Can we get to lunch already? Can we just blow through this one pretty quickly and get to lunch? 6 quarterbacks are not going to be gone in the first 12 picks. Jesse.
What do you
Taylor, let's go.
What if the Raiders were like, guys, we're sitting pretty. We're at 13. We love all of these quarterbacks. Any one of these 6 are going to be better than Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. It doesn't matter if it's Nix, Penix, Schminix, whoever.
McCarthy.
In any of the X's that land, we can make it work. And the Broncos swoop in and take the 6th and final one. And they're like, oh, okay, well, let's go best tight end on the board, I guess. I don't know, whatever.
Best, we'll go with a guy that I guess should have been gone in like the top 10, but still don't know who's going to throw him the ball. And we got Michael Mayer there as well, so we're definitely going to run these 2 tight end sets and run the football. And then we're going to have 2 pick 6s against the Chiefs because that's the recipe to beat them.
Can we play them on a holiday again? That'd be nice.
Thanksgiving, maybe? Halloween? I'm not sure. Christmas? Maybe. New Year's. We can't play them after New Year's because then the season's over. So
no, there's a couple weeks after
I
New
know.
Year's. Yeah, these days.
I tweeted out
last 2 games after New Year's.
I tweeted out last night about Brock Bowers. I said, Brock Bowers is a perfect fit for the Raiders because all of his success in the college football playoff, playing that deep, he's used to his season ending after Week 18 in the NFL.
I remember
perfect for the Raiders.
The first year of the 17-game schedule was the year that the Chiefs just got trounced by the Titans, right? It's 27-3. And in the end of the game, all the Chiefs fans are just mad. Everybody's mad on Twitter, right? I tweeted like, guys, I don't care what you say. I still see this Chiefs team playing at least two games in January, and people just hammered away. They're like, dude, are you watching this team? There's no chance. They had a January 2nd and a January 9th regular season game scheduled. That I just kept going. No, I really do. So I'm gonna check. What's it called? Bookmarking this. I'm gonna come back. I'm like, yeah, be sure to come back January 9th. That's when you want to come back.
So the replies were amazing.
It's great.
Clearly, you don't know sports.
I don't.
Oh, shocker! Mick thinks that they're going to play.
What a homer! What a homer!
Homer pick. I'm just like loving the responses.
And the funny thing is, they played like 4 games that January, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That was the Bengals year, I think.
Oh, after the Chiefs lost to the Eagles, I had tweeted out that. The funny thing is we're all going to be laughing when the Chiefs hold up the Lombardi Trophy this year in February, and then next year we'll see them lose a game, and we'll all be back here again panicking. Yep. And then the replies were, not this. There's a better chance of the Chiefs losing the division than winning the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are not winning. This team's no chance of winning the Super Bowl. I'm like,
Yeah, I would have been tweeting
every once in a while you get one right.
Yeah,
every once in a while you get one right. I mean. I wasn't fully convinced that was the case, but I thought, this team is, because that was before the Bills and before the Packers game and before the Raiders game. Okay, that was right after they played the Dolphins, then they had the bye, then they played the Eagles, and it's like, well, they should have won that game. MVS just dropped the football, so they should have won that game, and it's like, all right, everything's going to be fine, guys, just chill out. And then, of course, the next month happens, and it's like, okay, well, maybe it feels a little bit different.
We're going on vacation next week with a bunch of other couples, right? Yeah. Well,
congratulations.
Cul-de-sac.
Rich people
and
do.
So they wanted to like get together a planning deal in February, and they're like, how about February 10th? Like, Mick, is that going to be this was like in late December, early January. I'm like, they're like, is that going to, your Chiefs schedule? I'm like, that's like the night before the Super Bowl. The Chiefs ain't making the Super Bowl. I typed it out, and people give me crap. They still give me crap to this day over that. I'm like, oh. They're like, I thought you knew sports. I'm like, no, I never
you thought
tried
wrong.
to give that impression, okay?
I talk about sports. I didn't say I know them.
When do you think the first Bo Knows shirts get made by Broncos fans? Like Bo Knows interceptions.
My brother lives in Denver, and he's a graphic designer, so he might have made them already.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah. Bo Knows interceptions. Hey, Bo. They're chanting for me. They're saying Bo. Actually, Mr. Nix, those are boos. Those actually are boos.
They're not saying Bo. They're saying boo. Yeah.
John Boyce on Twitter that has like 250,000 followers, and really what he does is just make fun tweets.
That's a good one.
He's a Chiefs fan, and he said Xavier Worthy's a great player, but it's just hard to get excited when your team hasn't won a Super Bowl in months. Curtis had a great line last night, and then Sterling had it today, but I don't think you heard Curtis last night, so it was great minds. But Curtis said, I had the tweet all ready to fire out that it's nice that the Bills finally know what it's like to pick 32nd. and then they traded out of it. Yes. And Curtis like, I couldn't fire off the tweet. I couldn't rip off the tweet, man. Finally they get a chance. But then Sterling said that earlier, and I'm like, maybe it's a little bit like I always said growing up, I'm never going to go to the actual Super Bowl game until the Chiefs play in it. The Bills are like, we're not going to draft 32nd until we've earned it. Okay, so we traded with the Chiefs, but we will trade out again. I refuse to draft 32nd when it is not a really earned 32nd pick. Okay, not going to happen.
Did you see Chris Sims' tweet last night? Number 28 Chiefs. Of course, the champs get a guy with 3 rockets up his ass.
That's a great line.
That's a great line.
That's
you're 2 scoops of it, and he's got 3 rockets.
Yeah. What's the breakdown, like the mathematical equation? Solve for X. Does 2 scoops equal 3 rockets?
Maybe. I think they're the opposites.
Yeah, they are the opposite.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
2 scoops is bad. You don't want to be 2 scoops of ass.
That's a good point.
But 3 rockets up there. Yes.
But having 3 rockets up there is perfectly fine.
He settled on the number.
3 rockets. Creed Humphrey also had a dynamite tweet last
so
night.
Good.
That was really good. Me trying to keep up on wide receiver screens, and it shows a very, very hefty man trying to run and just falling. He's very top heavy. And then I love the fact that Drew Tranquill is so at home in Kansas City that he's already picking up on the Aaron Ladd, F it Tyreek down there somewhere when he tweets out Xavier Worthy down there.
Aaron didn't coin that, I don't think.
But
right?
he did say it
in a press
He did
conference.
say it in a
and
press conference.
We had a little meeting after that. I'm like, well, we don't say that word, okay? It was like a kid. We don't say that word in press conferences, okay?
Yeah.
Let's not do
See,
that.
here's the thing. If you're willing to say it in a press conference, full word and all, I'm going to give you credit. I'm going to give you credit of F it Tyreek down there somewhere. But Drew's been a part of the Chiefs for 5 minutes. He's tweeting out, Xavier Worthy down there somewhere. Love it, man.
Aaron's good at making a splash. Let's just say.
Yes.
He had one that went kind of viral last night.
Yes. Charles Omenihu, Worthy down there somewhere, Hollywood down there somewhere, Trav working the sticks, and Rice, we got the pop. And then Des Bryant quote tweeted that and said, "This got to be the most cheating video game ever." And now it's like, the other people were saying no longer allowed to use the Chiefs in Madden. Can't use the Chiefs in Madden now. Now the Chiefs are going to be the team that isn't allowed in Madden with Xavier Worthy on the team. So we'll see. People are excited about it, but I will offer devil's advocate. The last time the nation on Twitter went crazy about how in the hell did the league let this happen?
Every year they're like, who's going to stop Ryan Tannehill, right? And these receivers, who's going to stop these guys? It's impossible.
Last time it was
never
about the
pans
Chiefs,
out.
though. Last time it was about the Chiefs was, I can't believe the league let the Chiefs get Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
No,
What in the-
no one did that.
Are you?
No one did
Don't
that.
Don't gaslight me. That was the
Don't
entire.
gaslight
Somebody
me,
of note,
Jason.
or just like
yes.
a homeless guy tweeting?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's my
dude.
point, Jason. Thank you, Mitch.
I swear, dude, that was.
Your friend from college who was 13 beers
Nope.
deep tweeted that, and
Nope.
you're like, yeah.
Nope. There were so many. Wow, now the Chiefs get Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Do not go back and look at it. Go back and try to find
No,
it.
you
I'm telling
find me. Like, don't tell me to do my homework.
You're the one that said no.
Well, yeah,
I'm telling you what happened.
I could say anything right now, and then just deny and say, "Well, I guess you're not doing your research."
That's right. I do my own research on this. Okay, I've done my
It
own
has
research.
to be someone I've heard of.
Yes, it can't be again your.
So you're
dude in your neighborhood.
So essentially, what you're saying is you're calling me a liar
Your
right here to my
uncle.
face. Just call me a liar. Then.
No, I'm asking how big of a person was this? Of note, did
There was
this
a-
person
sturdy?
know what they were talking about?
There
Yes,
were many.
Was he stocky? Was he
There were,
like
yeah, it was well,
barrel-chested?
it was thinner. It was Xavier Worthy that said it at that
Ah,
time. It was
okay.
2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, however long ago it was. Maybe he was a 15-year-old. I'm not sure.
Was it someone who knew
It wasn't,
ball?
but it wasn't one person. It was a general theme right after it happened of
Yeah. Your
Clyde
plus
Edwards-Helaire's
class.
now.
It was all your
because,
plus class.
Right. No, I'm telling you, man, it was national people, dude. Because he was expected to be better than what he was.
The point is well taken in that, like, everybody's, they're making the Tyreek comparisons and all that stuff. And I would counter with, okay, the last 2 years the Chiefs had Tyreek Hill. They didn't win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The 2 years he's been gone with a wide receiver room with nothing but questions, right?
That were the other folks.
They were the other folks. They won 2 Super Bowls,
They won
right?
2 Super Bowls with the
So
other
it's like
folks.
the defense, right? The other teams take note
Yeah.
of who's on the offense and who they're going up against, and there's some scheming that's involved in all that. And so the other teams on scholarship too, and
That's
there's ways to defend even great players.
Yeah.
So.
But the reaction last night certainly was a good portion of that. It wasn't all that, but it was a good portion last night of. So in 2 years, if I say, well, remember, I mean, they all said the same thing about Xavier Worthy, and then Stu's going to be like,
Well, I remember this
that
one. It was a wide receiver who ran a 4.21, not a running back.
That coming out of college was thought to be a really good difference maker. I would have liked the Chiefs to draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just not in the first round. I thought he was a fine pick as a running back. Not in the first round. If you had already grabbed T. Higgins or Jalen Johnson or Michael Pittman or Diggs or somebody along those lines, that would have been nice.
It's the Chiefs will forever be, and this is not a bad thing, trying to replicate that 2018 offense, right? Mm-hmm. Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill, right? It seems like
Sammy.
they're going after those molds, right?
It's the first
every
hit.
draft.
Always chasing that first hit.
Right, and it makes sense, right? I mean, you have Kareem Hunt, a guy that can run between the tackles, just a bowling ball out there, and then Tyreek Hill, Olympic type speed, who also has wide receiver qualities and way can run routes and catch balls.
Well, and I think one thing that's missing, and it's what Matt was talking about in the previous hour, was the Damian Williams running back is missing. Pacheco's fine; he's a good running back, but that speed. So when Tyreek had the speed and Sammy Watkins had the speed, and then in 2019 you threw McCole Hardman in there, and Damian Williams was a sub 4.4 guy, and how fast that everybody was. Legion of Zoom across the board, 3 wide receivers and a running back. Now you've got Hollywood and Xavier, but your running back room is a little slow afoot. So you're missing that part of it.
And it's not like we're cracking the case here. Football coaches want guys that are really fast, right? At all the skill positions.
I don't know. I'm going to do some research on that.
Even more so when you have a quarterback with the best arm in the world, right? Somebody that can put it anywhere they want, whatever the route is, however far downfield. You want those guys to be able to get to that spot as quick as possible and get open as quick as possible, because that just leads to bigger and bigger plays. Yep. So, again, not cracking a big case here, but the speed all around Mahomes makes more sense than maybe more skill, right, or more size or more physicality all around Mahomes.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone right after this. Kevin Seifert. Louis Riddick. The Chiefs. Yeah. The Chiefs' offense just got scarier. Somehow the league let that happen. Boom, in your face. That was my fraternity brother.
That was about Hilaire?
Yeah, these are all about. I just did a Google search. NFL Twitter reacts
That's
to
why
Clyde
you weren't talking
Edwards-Helaire.
to us during the break.
Yes. Charles Goldman. Another weapon in an already potent offense is not something you're going to find me complaining about, but other teams in the league will. That was also my fraternity brother.
Okay.
Charles
Hey, what's
Goldman.
this notion that like the NFL let this happen? Like they
I know, yeah.
You're drafting last.
I
Right?
know, right.
The NFL
I totally
is
agree.
gearing it towards the bad
No.
teams. What are they supposed to
Right.
do? Say, oh no, you guys are too good.
Yeah.
You can't have a skill position player.
My point was just playing devil's advocate that everybody was like, oh my God, the Chiefs got Xavier Worthy. The league is dumb. It's like, well, the last time we sort of said that was the Chiefs added Clyde Edwards-Helaire to the offense. How dumb is the rest of the league? Well, the rest of the league was apparently smart.
Yeah.
They were like, hold on. The Chiefs took Edwards-Helaire? Oh, hell yeah. Sweet. We didn't want that guy in the first 3 rounds. They took him in the first round. What a wasted pick for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But we'll see what happens with Xavier Worthy. I think he's going to be a better player than Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I 1,000% agree, and that's also why I think it's a little funny whenever you tweet something or you talk about something, and if you're even slightly questioning anything, it's, well, I think I'll trust Brett Veach and Andy Reid over you, good sir. And you're like, as if they've never made a pick
Right.
that's questionable. Like, okay, yeah, how's Sky Moore over Pickens? He
Yeah.
talked about how he wanted DK Metcalf. Like, I should have
miss.
gone with DK. That was a
Misses happen.
miss.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, okay. I just always find that
Well,
fascinating to me.
And we do have like comparisons. So they've missed on some. We watched McCole Hardman and DK Metcalf, but also it was Ohio State's, it went to Indianapolis, Paris Campbell.
Yes.
That went after they traded ahead of Paris Campbell. Or they traded up. They could have taken Paris Campbell. They took McCole Hardman. It was like, okay, you're looking for that speed threat. Even if you didn't think DK Metcalf can do all these different things, he was just a huge guy that could run fast. Paris Campbell had some of those same skill sets that McCole Hardman did, so that was at least a comparable to watch.
Andy Isabella.
Yeah, was a guy there. The Trent McDuffie, Kyer Elam was an easy one to pay attention to. Sky Moore, the George Pickens, Alec Pierce, Tyler Thornton, because when they traded back, 3 receivers that went were Pickens, Thornton, and Pierce. And then they got Sky Moore, so those are 4 guys to look at and compare. And this will be a direct line of comparison of Xavier Worthy with Pearsall, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Legette, Ladd McConkey. All of these guys are going to be comparisons because you traded up and got a guy that, is either better, the same, or worse than some of these guys you could have stayed and drafted. So there's an easy parallel to watch and see how right the Chiefs were because they're also putting this guy into a position to be successful. So it's not like, well, Malik Neighbors is going to the Giants and he's got Daniel Jones.
Right.
So the numbers might not be great, because he's playing with Daniel Jones. This guy's walking into Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and if he's got issues of not being strong enough to get off the line of scrimmage against more physical cornerbacks, I think Andy Reid and the Chiefs will find a way to get him loose and to have him moving around and not go just lined up one-on-one against L'Jarius Sneed, who's going to put his hands on him and move him around.
I want to ask you, Mick, because we touched on this a little earlier. Do you think there's anything going back to the Sky Moore where they could have had Pickens, they could have had Thornton, they could have had Pierce, but they traded back to go, well, there's a pocket we like. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, well, we maybe liked Pierce better. We thought he was going to be there. This time around they said, we're not letting that happen. It might cost us a little bit here, but we're getting our guy. We know there's a pocket here after him, but we're not waiting for that. We want to have our pick. Do you think there's any of the reminiscing about the misgivings of the Sky Moore draft?
Yeah, and like I said earlier, they missed out on Zay Flowers last year. Didn't go and get. They thought he might be there, and they didn't.
Or
go
nobody was willing to. Or the price was way too high.
Trade.
Rent
And
is
so,
too damn high.
Yeah, I mean, and looked. I mean, they nailed the pocket with the Rashee Rice pick last year, right? In the second round, and so it's the draft is still hard, right? Even for the best team and the best selectors in the league, or the Chiefs, and they're probably batting below 500 in Brett Veach's era, but still, if you're above 400, you're really good, right? That's a great track
baseball.
record.
It's like baseball, right? It's like they're George Brett right now.
Yeah, I would say, You want to be better than 300 about in the draft. You want to get close to half your picks.
I don't know, the Panthers are like Joey
what
Gallo.
they should be.
Well, it sort of depends because it's kind of weighted because, in the first round, you need to probably bat 800. Seventh round, can you bat,
but,
can
how
you be,
often is that? I mean, that's...
Oh, I know. Yeah, that's what I'm like. You would like to bat that high of...
half the first-round picks every year don't live up to their value.
Yeah, well, it's like did you guys see the absurd, I'm using air quotes here, study that was done that Adam Schefter tweeted out? And
the second contract one?
Yes.
I thought that was a very poor...
It's
because I know it's first rounders only, by the way, but it also doesn't take into account where you're drafted 1 through 32. Doesn't take into account that if a guy is very, very good, he's going to get paid a bleep ton of money, and that current team might not be able to afford him. Right. For example, Clyde got a second contract. That's considered a hit.
I mean, in this thing?
Yes, according to that.
No, that's not dumb. That's dumb.
Yeah,
that'd
it
be
was
considered a hit.
Yeah, it was looking at here are the positional groups that are the highest hit rates and miss rates based on teams giving out second contracts to that particular player. And I'm like, Daniel Jones got a second contract. So that goes as a hit on that particular study. I'm like, this is already flawed. If it's just based on, well, did you get a second contract or not? Who cares?
Well, because Laramie Tunsil, for example, was a first rounder. He's not playing in his current team, so he'd be considered
every
a bust.
first round, if it's just a one-year deal with somebody else, or is it with the same team?
Has to be same team.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. So Laramie Tunsil in that case would be considered a bust because he was not given the second contract on the same team.
So
right?
you're missing both ways there, in that like there's guys that like you said the team couldn't afford him. They get a big deal somewhere else, and that's a miss supposedly.
So L'Jarius Sneed didn't get a second contract.
Yeah, exactly. That's dumb.
That was a fourth rounder. Well, you could have done better in that fourth round if you'd have got a guy with a second contract. Yeah, unfortunately, they took a guy that signed for $80 million.
I feel there's an easy way to just do a little bit more research, right, and come up with some sort of study that's a little more accurate.
I've never seen. Or very rarely see something that's put out like that it's like, okay, well, Adam Schefter's like, look at this study that was da-da-da, and was so universally immediately like picked apart, like, well, here's an issue why this is dumb. Here's another issue why this is dumb. This doesn't seem very smart. So, yeah, just, like color coding some bar graphs and some plot graphs doesn't necessarily make the research worthwhile.
If I can find 5 things wrong off the top of my dome right there in 13 seconds, I really think go back to the drawing board there.
Yeah, you kicked the ball into the end zone. You didn't guard Tyreek Hill. You didn't guard Travis Kelce. And you allowed him to get the timeout, and then you chose wrong on the coin flip. I named 5 things that went wrong in 13 seconds.
You did, and then you traded with the Chiefs again.
Which I give the Bills some credit because they could have easily said, bleep you, no. And they viewed it and said, this makes us better. I know it makes the Chiefs think they'll get better. Fine, the Chiefs will get better. But Sterling said it earlier. The Bills, they're not one player away. And the Bills looked at it and said, we're not one player away. They now have 4 picks today. They've got 2 second-rounders, 2 third-rounders because of moving back from 28 to 33.
It's 4 spots, I agree. And that it's not like who the Chiefs were going to take at 32 was going to be a bum, right?
Right. Exactly.
And it's a Pro Bowler at 28, right? It could be vice versa, right? Had they stayed, maybe they'll end up getting a better pick. We never know. This thing's a crapshoot, and so it's 4 spots. You made your team better. It's not like the Chiefs were gonna get worse had they stayed at 32. Right. And so, to me, it's done. And then they traded back again, got another pick, right, with Carolina. They just did not like that area of the draft. Talk about pockets. They were in the wrong one there, apparently.
We can trade out. Let's trade out. But, if they looked at it and said, we don't want Xavier Worthy. It doesn't fit our scheme. If it fits the Chiefs, whatever. He may be there at 32 anyway. So we sit here at 28 and take somebody that we don't think the Chiefs were going to take anyway. Or we can slide back, sit at 32, and go, well, now we got a couple of other guys that we like.
We're targeting 5 guys right here that we really like. And just if everybody picks one of them, there's still one of them left here. Right. We can move back 4 spots.
And the Chiefs clearly didn't view it that way. They said the 4 wide receivers have gone off the board, and we feel like there is a difference between 5 and everybody else.
Trade their entire receiver room, apparently. So
they need receivers.
We're going to jump ahead of them.
So if San Francisco's going to have Ayuk and Deebo Samuel gone, then maybe they're going to go up and get Xavier Worthy.
Sure enough, they
drafted a wide receiver. It's just an interesting one.
They might have reached a little bit
because San Francisco's offense is a lot of get the ball in their hands and then let them get yards after the catch. And Pearsall's a guy that's I'm going to catch it, but that's probably it. But I'm going to get open and I'm going to catch it. Like I am not going to drop this football. So if there was somebody that if the Chiefs took, that would have been like, well, of course they took him. That would have made sense besides just the really fast guy from Texas and Xavier Worthy. It would be Pearsall, where people go, yeah, maybe the best hands in the draft and doesn't drop anything. Yeah, makes sense. The Chiefs would grab that guy after all the drops they had to deal with last year.
I just love that the Panthers traded back into 32 to grab a guy that's basically the same player on the roster. Jonathan Mingo is basically the same as Xavier Legette.
They
you
took
just
Mingo
doubling
back-to-back
down.
years.
You just did the exact same plan. How did that work out, guys?
We're going to get it right. We're going to get it right, one of these two. The Chiefs took Sky Moore and Rashee Rice, and they got one of them right. Okay, so we went Mingo, and we're going Xavier Legette. One of these guys we're going to hit on.
The Panthers are the Joey Gallo. They're just gonna bat about 150, and they're just hoping that they run into one.
Might get a home run here. Might not get a home run here. Here's Brett Veach. If you want to know what maybe tonight could bring for the Chiefs, sitting at pick 64. This is clip number 9. Here's Brett Veach talking about the trade that they made, but really how the first round went, how the board fell along the way while they were sitting there at 32.
Wide out and tackle and D-line corner. We kind of had a pretty good gauge that the tackles we like would be gone. We were holding out a little hope there that if one of those guys got in a window, we would have done something. And the guys that we were really interested in, they went and didn't really have an opportunity there. And we just kind of let the board play out. And then we saw a good value there to move down a couple spots, 38 spots, and then take Xavier. We just felt like it was the right move and it made sense for us.
So clearly, everybody nailed it, got it totally right. The Chiefs will be looking at tackle and wide receiver in the first round. Shocking that those are the biggest needs, and those were the players they were looking at. But he said, the tackles weren't there. I think once Amarius Mims went number 19 to the Bengals, then the trading up became obsolete for the Chiefs at that point. But is it an indication of what could happen tonight if the Chiefs were saying there was a pocket of tackles that we were, or a number of tackles in a pocket we're looking for, didn't make sense? So then the next one was Xavier Worthy. Clearly their plan A was to move up and get a tackle. That was plan A. Plan B was to get Xavier Worthy to help ease the protection of Patrick Mahomes when the defense is doing different things, worrying about the guy running deep, the guy running across the middle in Rashee Rice, the guy working the sticks like Travis Kelce, and the other guy in Hollywood Brown that's doing things as well. Makes it a little bit easier when the defense has to worry about those things. But if one of those tackles that could be early second starts to slide, we've talked about Suamataia a lot on the show. If he's there at 50 or 52 or something like that, is that the time you use one of next year's third rounders, take 64 and move up and get your tackle?
Yeah, I think the way the wonky way the draft went with all the offensive players, all the quarterbacks, right? It resulted in that run on offensive tackles. And what do they have? 8 or 9 offensive linemen overall, because that Duke kid I think is interior.
Center,
yeah, and so that's what it resulted in, to where there just weren't enough tackles there for the Chiefs to make a move there. But what it did, it just slid those receivers. Worthy's the 5th receiver, is that right? Taken. And so, with this receiver class, if you can have your 5th pick at the receivers, or the 10th at O-line, you're going. It's a no-brainer. You go receiver.
Yeah, 9 offensive linemen taken in the first round, 8 tackles, because I think you're considering
Graham Barton was a center, right?
Yes.
Center dude.
Yes. So he's the only non-tackle. If you
one of
consider
those guys,
Troy
one of those guys is probably going to move
to a guard, which is completely possible. But we think Fatano's probably more of a tackle, even though he's listed at guard. He played both. Either way you look at it, 7.
Didn't they draft L'Jarius Sneed, and wasn't he listed by the NFL as safety?
Yeah.
The Chiefs said cornerback when they drafted him. We're bringing him in here to play cornerback. But NFL.com and ESPN, it was L'Jarius Sneed safety. In the 4th round.
And then Morgan's another guy they're figuring, Jordan Morgan, that'll move to guard.
Yeah. But they're actually listing Fautano as a guard
and
on
I think
the different
he's going to move to tackle.
But I think he's going to stay at tackle for the Steelers.
Yes.
They're going to try to, at least, because he played left tackle for 3 years in Washington. So.
And then you have, I think what you're bringing up is interesting if there's a pocket, but I still believe there's 2 guys. Or, if you want to count the Notre Dame guy, then 3. But you have Patrick Paul, right? And you have Kingsley Suamataia. Those guys, I think, are the two guys in particular you're looking at because those two guys might be around in the 50s. They might be around 50, 51, 52, where you're not giving up a ton to move up to that spot.
And they also play left tackle.
Correct.
Not just
Yes.
like, Blake Fisher. Well, Blake Fisher, if he's there, right, he's a guy that's played right tackle the entire time at Notre Dame because, Joe Alt was there on the left side. So I'm not wanting the Chiefs to draft a right tackle.
When it was 12 or 13 and 3 receivers had gone, and it was all offense, I was wondering, okay, is this going to be an edge pick for Kansas City? Is there going to be a Dallas Turner right left because they weren't taking defensive guys, and then that run on edges happened towards the middle to the back end of the first round, and that just left wide receivers is kind of the odd man out, and I think the Chiefs benefited.
Yeah, it's like at this rate, Latu is going to be there at 32. They're going to be able to get that guy at number 32. Instead, he was there at number 15 for the Indianapolis Colts. So good for them. All right, we'll take a timeout. Come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll get the cuts coming up next right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.